I was like, I used to live over there, so you don't live off of the mountains, you live off of like.
I live by Gmart. You know what Gmart is.
Where's you? I'm just curious. I love them.
Oh, so you really live more like by Hacienda Heights?
Past that.
Oh,
I'm like way more north.
so like City of Industry, a little beyond that?
City industry is kind of like the, is that kind of like,
Yeah.
I would say parallel to Pasadena.
Oh, sure. So like SGV.
Not really, but yeah. I'm not in the San Diego Valley.
are you on the other side of Holy? Like the dark side, right?
This is fun.
We're like,
We're like,
Okay,
where
okay.
exactly is he from? I'm just
from,
from, just imagine me in a mountain, and that's
Okay.
exactly right. Yeah, tiny person with a big rock.
Point.
You can point wrong.
There.
Oh. In Berlin.
Like there. That's pretty close.
Oh, so like Lindora, Azusa.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay.
There's Cofina, Salinas. Yeah.
Okay, now
My mom lives in Riverside, like Ontario, so I could if I really wanted to.
It's so stupid that place is called Ontario.
Why do you get confused with Canada?
I do. Every time. I'm like, oh, as Ontario, the Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I gotta go, I can't be here, you know. Right, I mean, now
It's like how there are a bunch of shit around here named Sonora, even though we're not really that close to the state of Sonora. It drives me insane.
trying to figure out, which, does it make sense to come in this way or?
So you're from California originally?
yeah. I'm like more, I grew up out towards like, yeah, San Bernardino.
So that's what I.
Okay, sure.
Where?
Wow.
I don't try to play
And honestly, you're really valid for that, and I respect.
It's just soccer.
Yeah.
It could have been. Yeah, I feel like they.
Not like one of the nicer stuff.
It's a decent suburb.
It's not so bad, but
It's nice to drive.
It's decent. It's not like a bad area or anything. It's just more like they destroyed whatever history was there. They really destroyed it and like turned it into
Oh.
like storefronts.
Yeah. There's two ways a suburb can be that. Being like straight poor or whatever, crime ridden. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like Yorba Linda is the worst suburb of Los Angeles. Have you ever been there?
I've been there, but like only in some very shitty, questionable form.
Yorba Linda or Irvine? Terrible place.
What's wrong with Irvine?
Irvine is just like there's nothing besides the university. It's just mini malls.
And the
Nothing.
Irvine Spectrum.
I think that's kind of where Rancho is though, because
Yeah.
like they have like a couple malls and like a lot of strip malls. It's not really a whole lot going on.
Yorba Linda is full of like it's somehow 90% white despite being in Southern California. It's the birthplace of Richard Nixon and his body's still there, so it's like evil spirit. It's like he's in all water.
Oh, okay.
I
Gender
hear it.
neutral bathroom.
What?
Get it?
Oh, okay, I get it. I get it.
And this is of course was there, but and you know it's full of like rich white people who make money from the nebulous dream, and their teenage children who inexplicably drive Camaros and do cocaine at 15. You know?
I feel like Rancho like wants to do that. That's how I would describe it.
fucking hate my town, which is why I never say the name. I try not to say the name. I'm just like, I'm just from that area.
Where are you?
City specifically, or like.
Doesn't say the city.
It's good for me.
Uh,
I hate everything about it. The history is like awful, horrible.
yeah.
It used to be native land, indigenous land. A white man came along and named it after his wife. And he named it, and he added Glen because it's between.
It's like, yeah, Rancho's like masquerading because they like pulled Cucamonga from like the Cucamonga people who were there, but like they have not preserved any kind of native history really.
Yorba Linda is named after Linda Yorba, who's the daughter of one of the many daughters of Bernardo D. Yorba, who is a really weird guy, who was one of the first people to settle here as a Spanish colonizer, who was like Philippines. He was very weird, bad. But
I think you know so much about Yorba.
I do. I know a lot about. I actually know a lot of local history about it. Like, is there? Like here's another thing. Chapman University, Chapman's Avenue, there too. That's named after Charles Symposium, who is the first mayor of Fullerton and a grandson of Johnny Appleseed, John Chapman.
So,
Also, Alhambra Bay, where I grew up, is the birthplace of the hot avocado.
Oh, well, that's fun.
The mother tree is there. Yeah. Avocado trees don't live there.
I was like, you're like, oh, big tree.
I love avocados. I grew up with a lot of avocado trees in my yard.
I know avocados I don't like that they're monopolized and controlled. They're violent. Very fruit? I don't know.
They're fruit. They're fruit.
It's very fun.
Spaniards describe them as being like butter.
I don't agree with the Spaniards.
Right.
Yeah. Those guys were crazy, the conquistadors.
Oh,
They were
sure.
nuts. I mean, they were evil, obviously. That goes without saying. But they were also like fucking good. Like, they thought they were seeing this visions of the saints and shit. It's crazy.
Very much.
Yeah. They were seeing like St. Diego was starting to murder 90% of everyone. Why 22?
This is a show.
it's like, it's a great
The lumps that she was.
I know. Yeah.
I think she was memory. You guys I know was working
It was cool, but I was like, this doesn't look near anything.
It's, okay, I don't know, I like tried to fix this.
Oh, I said something.
Well, I like tried to fix this because I was like, my thesis doesn't read smoothly. I cannot pull, like,
Yeah.
so I'm like, I feel like I have to like preface it to make transitions, and I'm like, this is kind of weird, but.
That was me, so I'm just doing research. Because I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I was
You're
like,
stronger.
I just have bridges of things I'm curious about it.
I'm sorry, but I like the way
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like I keep clearing my throat. I think coffee's messing up my throat.
it's taxing it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just, I don't know, I like to theory, but I can't really find like evidence sustaining it. But I'm like, I think it's like, I don't know, trying on my throat.
I can see that happening. Instead of like smokers looking at the coffee.
I have like, yeah, coffee esophagus, I don't know, maybe like, yeah, because of me.
Esophagus is such a compelling. Oh, we were talking
Oh,
about
yeah. That's probably why it's in my head. Just think about
I did
it.
my thesis where the main character wraps her body in her esophagus to keep warm.
The way it sounds is like it's cozy.
There's a softness to it.
Like, yeah. Just at the same time, you know, just like,
I think that's hard.
drops. Keep.
Oh my God.
Oh, crap. Because like only our school comes to anything.
I mean, do you go to any like other departments?
Okay, so not as a valid comment. I once had aspirations doing that. Like when they do film screenings, you know, but usually I'm like tired and I'm like even my point I'm like,
If the ecofeminism ones weren't number one at Red Hat and number two during Anthony's class, I would have been interested.
that's true. It does seem like a really good series, like every single one. So that's kind of a bummer. And then yeah, like the aesthetics and politics ones, like some of those fall on like Fridays and stuff, and I'm like, so like I can't make it to downtown or wherever, you know, or back to campus on time. So time.
Oh, wow, that's good lord.
Hello.
Yeah, no, it's full here.
It was you, it was you, my parents.
Yes, they know, no, everybody else is called secretary of public seven.
Nice.
I'm just gonna look for it, yeah.
That's something else. That's in your ear.
Yeah.
Mine. You can hear it. That was so deep.
There's probably a muscle in like how you swallow.
I don't know. I want to say. Not like the collarbone. I don't know. But it's, I feel like if there is a word for it, it should sound like kind of like choking. It should make a very like throaty, yeah, sound. It's not funny.
It's an essay. It doesn't belong to so it's just like,
Yeah. The bottle.
no wait, that's right.
You know, there's a band like if you get a punk band called Burn Nation.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But it's there. Yeah. Is that okay? She's too big. She's my phone. That's some
I was contacting second to my phone, but then I feel like I'm gonna lose you.
Yeah,
I feel like hi.
Yeah, everything else.
And that makes sense.
But I think that's you, if you want.
Yeah, I mean like this.
I love when you can do that, yeah.
So I get that. So I'd be like, hello. Underlining.
I was gonna do that with my tablet, but then I'm just like moving, I was like moving around, but I'm holding it like my just for serious. We're going to my.
No.
So like, no, I don't want to.
I have the long recorded mic, so I guess I'm using this.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
In solidarity. From our loved ones.
Yeah, we could like rearrange the chairs.
How are you?
And you were like,
It is. Oh, through here.
Downstairs.
Yeah.
So there's, okay, so we go 3 outside on this floor. No. Yeah, I went to. I was thinking that ours first. He hasn't asked me. Yeah.
And I wanted to have images. I don't know how that's.
We're gonna be. Oh, so it's just like.
Oh, okay. No.
I think it might be. Yeah.
I would ask.
Oh, and this is,
That's where I've been, yeah. I've been in the sessions.
oh, I don't.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're doing the group chat.
Yeah, okay, Katie, the blue cheese Japanese flag and that, yeah, that's you. I assigned it.
That's accurate.
Oh,
That's accurate. I think that's accurate.
Oh, yeah, this is me. My parents. I don't know if you.
I can tell.
Hi, I'm Sophia. Yeah.
No, it's just, I just want to feel like this, I'm not looking super well, but my friend who gave it to me, and I was just like, took a lot of creative liberty, but I love him very much. You want SpongeBob? Are you versed in SpongeBob? You can also. Yeah. But. Yeah.
It's good. I love that.
It feels like every hour. There's too many external things.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, but there's only so much. And like,
Just dropped, and now we add. Just put in your number and then text your name. Right. Did you take your time? Okay, and then we done, and then we. Contact can only be added to your group. Members of your group. I thought that would work. Okay, I'm gonna. The contract. Create these lists of favorites. Yeah. And then you can put what the. Okay.
and I thought about it for this reading, I was like, oh, not, but it's not quite, but also, it's funny because it's ridiculous. When you that section, it was like, and I was like, it was necessary. It was about like, oh yeah, I felt at times. Yes, she's a journalist, but like.
They interviewed you.
It's good, right? Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, there's trolls. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Hello. Really good. And you were just stuck to my pants.
Yeah, okay.
But I feel like it's hard because there's a lot of different words, and so it works better than I can heard it.
What?
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I can hear. She's really, I'm so chill. She's a lot though, so like even I.
Well, we sat next to each other in class again, the whole semester, it's fine, like it's chill, so you're chill.
Okay. And it's aerated, like it's all like.
No, I'm here for the false. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, really? Sorry, finished it. That's why you. I wanted to check in about something. I'm sure that's what I don't know right now, honestly. Not been sleeping and I totally want to check with you like Jerry's baby. I went to this meeting. I don't know, right? So yeah. This way.
Yeah, I was like,
Like really up against I'm right now in a place where I'm really, I know what I want to be writing, but I'm not sure. I really don't know if there's too many elements happening and I'm like, should I lean into this being something that can get published or should I just write exactly what I want to write. I'm not, you know, but that was like.
So you're like a site train.
Oh, awesome. So I can make sure April 16th is. Okay. Yeah, awesome. Like one. So, long day today, that's long day. That would be great. There's no 1:15. That would be great. Yes. Like sample. Okay, so. No, absolutely. And press the wrong thing. If it's not right in front of my face, like, maybe not remember. I'm still working on it right now.
Big guy.
I know, it's so
Very worried about
I think it's fair. I don't want to get
Okay.
Yeah. You're awesome. But yeah, I will send you.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm totally fine. And I'm just like, that's your fault. You take your choice. Yeah.
This is like fiction, like, you know, which is cool, but also it's not very, like, I don't know. I write it because I enjoy reading. Which I like here. But, are you an email person or? I don't know. Okay, no, that's okay. Email here. That's very nice.
Every part is an image and see the first one will start with They're high below rock. That's the same.
No, the dog was around.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Okay, haircut, yeah.
Yeah, haircut, right?
I still have a name. I do lose my name, but I'm told that it makes me look younger.
Anthony, do you want to use this?
I will.
Great. Go for it. I don't know if there'll be feedback if you stand in front, but
Go over here.
I would say back here.
Okay. We have a special customized mic stand. We actually they weren't going to let us have a podium, but we have one. In case set this up and we like it better. You want to sit down? Thanks everybody for coming to our special event tonight. We have an unusual writing now on that. I do feel unusual sitting down. Okay, well, this is really interesting. I kind of like it. Tonight, as you know, because you're here, this is our documentary strategies symposium where we're going to be thinking about poetry and prose nonfiction, different strategies of engaging with what we might think of as the factual, right? And across different genres of nonfiction writing, and also, and specifically in poetry, the practice of erasure, which many of you have been engaging with lately, and we'll share later tonight in the second part of our event, which I'm very much looking forward to. But we're beginning. The genesis of this event is also a book release celebration for both of our first guests here tonight, who are well known to you all. And very exciting to have, had Wendy Ortiz here all year and to get to hear Wendy's work tonight. Wendy's sharing something new. So it's maybe the first time anybody else has heard it, yeah. And of course our own Chris Santiago. So we're celebrating the release of Small Wars Manual, which is out now or next week officially, tax day. And also, and your books are coming out on tax day too. I don't know what the deal is with publishers being like, we're just gonna do our taxes and release these books on the same day, and then we'll be done and we'll go to sleep. Wendy is gonna read first, and then Chris is gonna read. And if you read my many emails to you, you read the bios from our illustrious authors. You don't read my email? Really? You don't really, you don't read all of you? One thing that I'm particularly excited about is that the many genres of engagement with the documentary, with the nonfiction that are represented here tonight. Chris's book is a work of erasure, as you know, the Small Wars Manual, an actual document that he'll tell you more about. And then Wendy, Northwestern University Press, has re-released Wendy's three books, which are nonfiction books that take up the art of nonfiction in really different angles, formally, right, in their engagement of content and document and personal history, right? Excavation, Bruja, and Hollywood Notebooks each take up a different form, a memoir and what constitutes kind of a dreamoir. And then Hollywood Notebooks taking up the form of the notebook, right, as a book form. And all three of these, right, are really venerable, right? And Bruja's kind of like a reinvention or invention of kind of an old form, right? Like the dream book. So we're really excited to be thinking along all these levels tonight, and to engage in some conversation after our first reading too about genre and nonfiction and document. So Wendy, as you know, is the author of Excavation, Bruja, and Hollywood Notebooks, has been teaching here this semester, has been praised by many people. Is praised by many people. I like some of the things people say about Wendy. Like I'm going to quote Elizabeth Crane, because I haven't seen Elizabeth Crane in a long time, and it's nice to have her words here. Wendy C. Ortiz has invented her own genre in her sleep, no less. About Roxanne Gay said about Bruja, it's not just a book, it is an enigma and a wonder and utterly entrancing. So thank you for coming, Wendy. And Chris, as you know, is our faculty in poetry and everything else here. Small Wars Manual, as he'll tell you, right? It's a book of erasure of a fascinating document, right? Still in use by the United States government, right? It was used in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? And his book Tula, right, it was the winner of the Linguist and Venom Prize from Milkweed, which is also the publisher of Small Wars Manual. Both of our authors live in the Los Angeles Basin. Yes? Is Pasadena part of Los Angeles Basin? Yeah, it's still. The wall of the mountains is still there. It's in the basin. So thank you, Wendy. Take it away.
I feel like it makes you feel like you're at the UN or something.
I know, it looks like it's a little low or something, but yeah, no, it'll work. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, maybe I'll get closer. So I'm reading something that is new. It doesn't belong in the book in progress that I've been working on for the last several years. I don't really know where it belongs, but it's something that I haven't really been able to let go of. And so I thought, okay, just bring it, see what people, like what's the temperature? So I'm actually my earring's falling off, my mask is gonna come off. I'm really gonna hope that I don't get COVID from doing this. Okay, this piece is called Mommy. If I've had past lives, I feel certain that I was never a mother before. In this life, there was a chance I would never become a mother. There was the abortion when I was 23. Thank you, but no thank you, I said into the air. There was the marriage to a man who asserted on the first date that he was, quote, zero population growth. Later, becoming a mother was simple. It took 2 tries. We did not use a turkey baster, but a small syringe meant for animals. We were 2 women trying for a Libra baby, with a male friend who gamely gave us his sperm. On the second attempt, we nailed it. We got a Scorpio baby. When she was almost 2 years old, I found a necklace I loved online and I ordered it. Mommy, it read in a slanted script. Adorning myself with this necklace, it felt like I had chosen an identity that I had a lot of trouble with. I liked this fake gold declaration. It lightened the heaviness that came with the identity. I do like mommy sometimes. She can be a cool mommy, but sometimes not. Mommy may have become embodied as mommy, but she felt most mommy when she put on the gold necklace with the word mommy in cursive that landed lightly on her breastbone. This mommy always knew she wanted to be called mommy and not mama, A-M-A, or mama, O-M-M-A. There's something about the long E at the end, that jump off sound right into the void. Mommy! When I was a teen, everyone's mothers scared me. You had to be polite and pay attention to what they said, and usually they were pretty nice, gave us snacks, or they disappeared and you didn't have to deal with them, also nice. I preferred when these women closed the door and took their guardian energies away from us. At 15, when I started deeply studying the mothers from afar, I was just learning how to battle effectively with my own. I'd already had many years of practice behind me, but the war was a long one, and my mother's usual offense and defense was cheap vodka. By 16, I had a car, a part-time job, decent grades, and regular attendance at my college prep school. I was taller than my mom. These were my defenses. With her, I knew what to expect. With other people's moms, I was at a loss. They were the protectors of their babies, who were my friends or my boyfriend. They were protectors and bearers of the babies I vomited next to, passed joints with, drove around drunk, or straddled with a fury native to my teenage body. I used to fear that one of those mothers would look at 15, 16-year-old me and see right through to the soul I was both scared and proud of. Then I'd sneak a look at the mothers again and think, never, they couldn't possibly know. This is to say nothing of my early fear of the daddies. Babies bring their soft violence to the body, and then a mommy occasionally emerges. Mommy knows your family is your first cult. Mommy writes the first draft of her offspring, just as her parents wrote the first draft of her. Mommy had whole other lives before and still does. In one life, Mommy was a virtuous Girl Scout, and in another, Mommy was a slut. Mommy has infinitely more than 9 lives, and no one will ever know them all because Mommy likes it that way. Mommy only wants you to know the cover, the table of contents, and a few select chapters. Mommy revels in others' unknowing of her. Around the age of 42, I started thinking of them, all the mothers I had known who had lived, some of whom had surpassed the age of 42. There were the mothers of friends, some of whom I still see on occasion. And then there are the mothers I don't see, but who have left their imprint on me. I thought of all these mothers as I looked up suicide rates for women in the US in their 40s. I remembered with fondness the ones who didn't make it, or the ones who had made it, but who I no longer knew. I can chart a line in my creation as a woman in midlife through them. Whether I wanted it or not, their existences in my life have left their impressions. Mommy is a hypocrite, and she doesn't mind defending that fact only now that she is a mommy. Mommy is not a perfectionist at being a mother. She has only ever cared about being good enough and says this to as many other parents as possible. It's true that Mommy has historically had a hard time deepening into a relationship with the concept of being a mother. Mother, as we know, has so many connotations, and all of them sag with weight and meaning. She's always found it fascinating that a person could be born and that this event would alter her identity. And then when that person was old enough to form words with their mouth, she would tell them, "I'm Mommy." And then that's how the person would know her forever. Unless there came a day when the person chose to call her something else. Mommy has called her own mother at least 3 different names, and Mommy has witnessed grown children of others who call their mothers or other parents by their first names. Mommy likes to imagine she is open to that, but she sincerely hopes that the person that came out of her body does not call her by her first name. She has only one baby, and that baby has one mommy, so she'd really like for that name to remain. This one person in the entire world will be the only one to call her by this name, unlike all the rest. Cindy was a thick, blonde, blue-eyed creature with a high-pitched voice that bordered on childlike. Her body was cushiony and her pale skin poreless. I was afraid to talk to her the way I was afraid to talk to everyone's mom, but also afraid in the way I was afraid of talking to a crush. Cindy had had my boyfriend Nicholas when she was a teenager, so she was one of the youngest moms I knew. She had a goddess body. Her blue eyes could get steely. Cindy had gotten on a bus full of hippies when she was 13 and came out a whole other person. Cindy seemed well-read to my adolescent self, and I considered her one of the more intelligent adults I knew. Her voice kind of threw me off when she engaged us in conversations about current events. I could easily envision the young version of her as though she was one of my friends, a drifty member of my cohort of young girls who dropped acid and chugged Boone's Farm out of the bottle on the weekends. Cindy's house smelled like weed or enchiladas or wood floor cleaner. Did Cindy once write a poem about strawberries, or am I imagining that? I think of myself smoking weed in a room in Cindy's house, eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's New York Super Fudge chunk that I may or may not have followed up with laxatives later, freshly fucked by her oldest son, definitely not contemplating his mother's psyche, until she was right in front of me, speaking her existence. My boyfriend's mom, who was kind of hot, said smart things. The surprise when I thought harder about her long after, this woman, a mother, had an interior life. Sometimes I don't like mommy and mommy doesn't like herself. Mommy, like everyone, has problems, and her psyche, like everyone's, has been blemished by her particular set of experiences. A lot of these experiences can be traced to mommy's own mother. Moms were usually these harried beings telling us to be careful, to check all the bathroom stalls before going into one. Or they were in the other room doing their own thing, whatever that was. Or they were at the Mexican restaurant flirting with the young brown waitstaff. Moms were composed of purses and Ziploc bags, or they were dropping off cocaine in the porcelain bunny in your friend's bedroom, or they were puffing on a joint out of eyesight. Moms also smelled like patchouli or ballpoint pens, and they might hug you or simply regard you from afar. The moms I knew worked outside of the house and inside the house. They wrote poetry, they went contra dancing, they watched too much TV, they peeled apples, or they had a near empty fridge because they were too tired to go to the store, and why wasn't anyone helping them? In this part, there is a graphic of a tweet from old Twitter, Jenny Holzer, Tron, that account, who tweeted back at me, "Mothers shouldn't make too many sacrifices." I remember next to nothing about the movie Darjeeling Limited, except for the mother character. Played by Angelica Houston, she lived as far away from people as she could. Her sons would have to take a pilgrimage to communicate with her. She dressed in all white and had an air of holiness about her, and a coldness, a set-apartness. I watched the movie well before I was a mother or thought I wanted to be a mother, and watching it gave me the sense that if I was ever to become a mother, I feared this is who I'd become. On a mountain, alone, my child forced to take a great journey to see me. Mommy has jumped out of cars screaming at the driver, and mommy has had moments when she wondered how she would kill herself. Mommy has fantasized about leaving everyone and moving to a mountain alone, wearing all white and becoming unreachable to all except maybe her baby, who she would allow visits. In truth, mommy is already unreachable sometimes. The mother whose name was also the name of a Richie Valens song once stayed up all night playing Centipede on the Atari. She once yelled at her oldest son, my friend, for not letting me take a turn playing Centipede, snarling at him, "Wendy is my friend too." She confided in me that she never understood wearing yellow and black together, and I agreed, though it was something I had never thought about before. She invited me to every Disneyland excursion their family took. She carted a car full of kids to Zuma Beach every summer and let us stay in the water so long I'd come home and feel the waves gently rocking me in my bed when I went to sleep at night. She had grown up in the San Fernando Valley, south of Ventura Boulevard, in a sprawling ranch-style house that contained an enormous playroom separate from the kids' bedroom. A painted portrait of her hung in the formal dining room. I loved walking past that portrait of her, the woman I sometimes wished was my mom, in her rosy 1960s adolescence, pre-motherhood, blonde hair curled under, a mysterious smile on her lips, a friendly sentinel. She was an only child like me, and judging from the portrait, I assumed her parents were obsessed with her. One day, when I was maybe 10 or 11, something went awry at her dining room table. First of all, why was everyone seated there? I was used to so many meals at my friend's house where we just ate wherever we wanted. There were usually so many kids to corral, 3 sons, and the daycare on weekdays, and the dining room table usually overflowed with random objects and stacks of cake decorating magazines. I could just walk in the front door and their family was usually all over the house, but not this morning. Gathered this way, I knew something was off. It was quiet until she turned on the stereo, another clue something was off, and proceeded to bring breakfast to the table. "She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah," my second mom mouthed as she deposited plates and went back to the small kitchen. "She said she loves you." No one spoke. Her coarse dishwater blonde hair swung around violently as she shook and shimmied her head in a frenzy to the beat of the music when the Beatles said, "Ooh." Everyone remained silent. It occurred to me that we were pretending to not see what was happening. I thought back to the one cake among dozens that she made and so carefully frosted with the aid of all those cake decorating magazines, usually cartoon characters, animals, childhood objects like a crib or a tricycle. But that one cake I would never forget. It was an enormous pair of human breasts. She explained that it was for her husband's birthday. She said this to the next door neighbor she hung out with a lot during the day. I could tell her husband didn't like the next door neighbor, maybe not just because she smoked cigarettes outside the house a lot. I wanted to stare at the cake. The glimpse of that cake was a loud reminder that these people were more than parents, that this mom was more than a mom. Almost 30 years later, I drove my black Pathfinder down Exposition Boulevard like I was racing the metro train alongside me. The late afternoon sun beat down on the windshield as I pointed my car toward home and turned up the volume on the stereo. I pounded the steering wheel. Forgive me. Killing in the name of. My 3-year-old was in the back seat. And now you do what they told you. I said to my reflection in the rearview mirror, and now you do what they told you. I said to the child in the back seat. I yelled along to the song, my body wanting to break free from the vehicle, from all the softness where I had lost my edge, the life that led me to this place, this narrative. And then I remember her, that mom in the past, the beautiful violence of her thrashing head. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. When I think of who your mother was, I know why you're with me. My own mother to me felt like a very loud, very long train wreck. The screeching brakes, everyone out of the way. This is not exactly how I view her now, an octogenarian, but this is how I saw her when I lived in her house as her child. Other mothers did not speak of hope chests or charm school. As a child, I recognized that my mother was about 5, 10, 15 years older than everyone else's. Other mothers were also not usually going through menopause, the change, as my mother called it, while their daughters, my friends, were going through puberty. Other mothers were not allowing their children to smoke cigarettes in their bedrooms. Well, 1 or 2 were, but they gave up on their willful children. Other mothers were not drunk, trying their first bong hit at a table of various high school dropouts. It was a long adolescence. I spied others' mothers to try to understand the meaning of them and us. The mothers of my boyfriends, the mother of my ex-husband, and then the mother of my longtime partner. None of them have anything in common except that they are the mothers I've been forced to know who raised the people I have loved and still love. Like everyone, mommy has an ego. Mommy takes selfies and transports herself to the before mommy she remembers, though she feels she's been the hottest she's ever been since becoming mommy. Mommy likes her house, her personal spaces to be clean, quiet, and undisturbed. Mommy also likes to walk into a punk show and accidentally fall in with the mosh pit and let bodies thrash against hers. Mommy likes a dive bar and haunting music, and she dreams of day drinking in the shadows with a wood grain table under her fingertips and not suffering any ill effects. Mommy has been domesticated, and she no longer minds it. The house was a frame around the mother. The front porch was her tongue, and the inside of her house was the inside of the body. If I crossed the threshold into the house, I was entering the mother, and yet every interior was different. I might spend the most time in the child's room, but the enclosure around that child's room belonged to the mother. The mother was responsible for the inner realm of the house. A sense of relief when we crossed the threshold to the outside world again, where the mothers had no say, no power, no control over us. One mother's house, messy, beyond unkempt, like a disaster had just happened, clothes everywhere, a fork on the floor, a used paper plate on a couch arm. Pencil writing on the door frame and wall, a glob of pureed carrots on the floor, scent of dirty feet in the air right as you walked in. One mother's house, a brick entrance that once crossed landed you in a dark entryway thick with tchotchkes. Framed photos of the children, vintage appliances, an overly full refrigerator. A contained mess, a friendly clutter. One mother's house, framed modernist paintings on the walls. A measured sense of order, never sterile, but never so clean you were afraid to sprawl out. One mother's house, woody, hippie, dusty, wood-framed, black and white photos featuring branches of the family tree. Set back far from the street, the house felt both hidden and unsafe at the same time. Mothers are entry and exit. Ingrid Rojas Contreras. Mommy can exit, mommy can't exit being a mommy. I mean, sure, some mommies leave, but the residue they leave behind is thick, sticky. This mommy has contemplated the various exit routes, and they all leave her with the deepest sadness she has ever felt, second only to her father dying. So mommy stays. She thinks a lot. She thinks a lot about her own mother and the other mothers, now also in their 70s and 80s, and she thinks of the ones who exited via death. When mommy makes wishes, it's always for her baby to grow up well, healthy, and to live a long life. She would like to make her baby's life painless, but pain comes with the territory of being alive. Mommy deposits this information in droplets in the baby's mouth and brain. Too many droplets is unnecessary. Life is short. Her baby will know soon enough. Thank you.
Good start. Sorry. Thank you, Wendy. That was awesome. It's a hard act to follow. So at least it's completely different. This is totally. Thank you for having me read, everybody. Those of you who have been my students in my class, you know that I geek out over prezzies all the time whenever I do stuff. I don't know. I just like to have. But this is a project that kind of needs. I want to show it to you. There's a lot that's visual in the book, and also in making it, there's a lot that needs to be seen too. I think. Can you hear me? Okay, if the microphone is this far away. It's good. Okay. Small Wars Manual, it started off this is kind of a good place to talk about this conversation, because I was researching actually a prose work. I was working on a novel about the Philippine-American War. Does anybody know about the Philippine-American War? Is that something that's kind of been good? We're in a well-educated class. I mean, this is another thing too, is the different classes that I teach, the Asian American literature class and then the avant-garde stuff is sort of like kind of meets together in this book. Anyway, when I was researching the Philippine-American War, I found out that there was actually a manual called the Small Wars Manual, this one right here, which is, it was published in the 1930s, but it came together from a lot of different texts that were written after wars that were fought in the early 20th century, including the Philippine-American War, and including what were called the Banana Wars and the Border Wars. So it's mentioned in some of the poems, but Nicaragua, Honduras, Mexico, Philippines, Cuba, all kinds of places. And they're called Banana Wars, if it's not familiar to you, because banana companies, like this actual word Banana Republic, really they're corporate wars. And the US Marine Corps was used basically as like an international police to go in and put down revolutions in order to protect American business interests, which is not that different than what we're kind of approaching right now, right? Anyway, I wanted to erase it. I don't think most people know about the Philippine-American War. I didn't know about it until I went to college. That's its own kind of erasure, right? And so I wanted to erase this war or erase this text that came out of the war. And here is just a kind of a sample look inside the book. So this is the first poem that appears before the table of contents. And it's a set of rules because, as I said at the top of this page, there's rules for wars, there's rules for games, and there's rules for poetic forms too. So there are a lot of books of erasure out there. One that really inspired me is Srikanth Reddy's Voyager, which is a great book if you have not read it. And so the epigraph actually comes from that book. And in an interview about this book, Srikanth Reddy said, erasure became like a form of reading or detection, which made me feel, as I do now, that writing itself is a form of reading. One of the things that I took from Reddy's book is when I erased texts, I felt free to collapse the space. So this poem actually comes from this text, the next page right here, chapter 2, section 1. So you can see where I used a highlighter on my PDF app. I didn't want to, one of the reasons I did this is because I didn't want to use a traditional pencil and cross it out because it's so hard to revise. This way it would be easier for me to keep going back and changing things. But then as I found words and they formed, I would put notes on the side so I wouldn't forget what I was trying to write. And you can see, sometimes the words would be full words like United States or small wars, but more often a word would start to occur to me and I would look for that word by finding letters across it. Kind of drove me insane. But I did this during the lockdown, so it actually became a great way for me it became kind of a meditation and a way to keep from going insane for other reasons. So this first poem, I wanted it to be sort of undetected. People might not even think it was a poem, but it's a set of rules for the book. So the poems with numbered titles, including this one, form a series that erases the United States Marine Corps Small Wars Manual. That's the note. Methods. Each poem in the series has been salvaged from a single section or chapter of the manual. So that was a rule I set for myself. Each of these chapters, that would be a beginning and end point for a poem. In some cases, words have been assembled from the letters or fragments of other words. For example, inter in intervention plus read and considered becomes interred. And then typography, punctuation, and capitalization have been added for clarity. With a few exceptions, unused letters and spaces have been removed. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple poems. I read some of these. I read from this at AWP, and I don't want to make you poor people hear the same poems over and over again, so I'm gonna read some different ones instead. This is for, I wanna read this for our colleague Yannick, who is in Canada. 5.1, neutral zones. The origin of the world is the building of a border. If being is a refuge from nothingness, then war is the establishment of a neutral zone. Refugees stream onto vessels into asylum centers, unable to parse the local language, or the difference between the deported and the departed. One of the things I did, the table of contents too, is I just freely moved chapters around. So I did keep each chapter intact, but then I messed the order around, and you can see that in the table of contents. It just, some poems would speak better to each other. Okay. My post-it note came out, sorry everybody. So because I wanted to talk a bit about using documentary poems, I'm going to move after this next poem to poems about specific things that happened in the Philippine-American War that are also part of the prose project, which I'm still writing. But just one more poem from near the opening. This is actually the very opening of the Small Wars Manual itself, 1.1. A small war is a state of exception, lawlessness justified by the need to protect property and the lives of propertied citizens. The first phase is tropical, thirsty for global markets. The second involves steamships, and believers expedited to the Far East. Martial law prepares the way for the fourth phase, erasure. Last comes carabao skin and mahajua wood for the floors of the Oval Office. That last bit is William Howard Taft, who became president of the United States, was governor of the Philippines during the war, and he brought back souvenirs. So he actually decorated the White House with mahajua wood for the Philippines and carabao skin and all kinds of other stuff that will show up in another poem. Anybody remember waterboarding? Waterboarding originated in the Philippine-American War, at least as a practice that was practiced by the United States Army. It was a practice that was used by Filipinos as torture, but the US Army used it to interrogate prisoners. And this was discovered, and there's congressional testimony, and Taft and Theodore Roosevelt later both said, it's not that bad, it's okay. There's also, in the war, there were separate segregated units of African-American soldiers that fought within the war, and many were torn because, as you could see in some of the hometown letters they wrote to their newspapers, they felt more kinship to Filipinos than they did to the white soldiers that they fought alongside. But at the same time, they wanted to prove their, quote, manhood and Americanness by fighting in a war and serving their country. And so one of those stories in one of these poems, which I'll read, is about David Fagan, who was a private in the US Army, liked to get in a lot of trouble against his commanding officers, and he's deserted. There were 8 or 9 African-American soldiers who deserted. There were 6 white soldiers who also deserted. But 7 of these African-American soldiers joined the Filipino side, and Fagan actually became a captain. And that's the fiction project that I'm working on, that I discovered this manual. So this poem is about David Fagan. It's called Insurrecto, and it's a sestina. Insurrecto for David Fagan. Our worst enemy is General May. Rainy season, the lieutenant means. Monsoon, much like Tampa's summer storms. Roads become marsh, not just flooding, but fever, a fire that hollows me out. We throw lifelines to overturned ferries, casualties grow long. Incessant drizzle, letters take too long to reach home. I prefer carousal, cards, dismay in officers' faces when I cross the line. The guardhouse, my second home. The guardhouse is where you get thrown in when you have an infraction in the military. My fines soon add up, a month's pay. Most of it earned so far by killing time, not ladrones. We march to summits, spy gugus drilling below, march back down to find the enemy long gone, only grinning farmers left. Hellfire, spits lieutenant, scanning ridges, amazed to have been rolled by shoeless bandits again. Soon he'll snap like the officers in Samar who lined up boys young as 10, sympathizers aligned with insurgents. So said General Smith. Marshaled them blindfolded to clearings, too soon for them to swell the soil. Long rest for short lives. Their will bewilders me. Faced with Gatlings, Craigs, methodical shellfire, they ambush hand to hand. Bolos, that's kind of knife, a long machete like that. Bolos, sniper fire in enfilades. Harass our lines, then beat back to boondocks, a maze of jungle, cordilleras, rice fields, marsh. Land surely rich with poetry, Tulang in their tongue. Land like home. Typhoon is cousin to hurricane. When the monsoon shifts, so do I. I snap, desert for foreign fires. Rope can kill black soldiers, but not disease. Lungs like ours grittiers, the COs say. We're maligned, but nicknamed immune. My old unit marches, black against brown, under white, as if to make the Far East a second South. I form a line alongside former foes, a turncoat merging nations. Our flag has no color. Soon it may. That image of here's the water cure being done. But that image of the boys, this is a famous political cartoon that appeared in the Evening Journal of an incident that happened after insurgents. This is also the first American guerrilla war. They sometimes call it the first Vietnam, but as Viet Minh points out, Vietnam's a country, not a war. So we'll come back to that in a second, but they actually killed every male child over the age of 10 because of this guerrilla action that actually ended up killing dozens of American soldiers. And so this is an image that was famous in turning. There's a very sizable anti-imperialist movement among Americans, including Mark Twain and I think Andrew Guthrie, but they lost. William Jennings Bryan lost the election to William McKinley, who was assassinated in 1901. So the war, I started off talking about the Philippine-American War in the book, but then I'm interested in how that becomes the genes for American intervention later on. And so there's Korea, there's Vietnam, there's so much, there's the whole century, so much of it in Asia, and so much of it results in displacement and refugees and all kinds of other things. There are two pechacuchas in this book, and a pechacucha is where you take a visual artist and you take 20 of their works of art, and then you write a poem that's 20 seconds for each poem. So theoretically, this should take about, 400 seconds, which would be 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Is that right? My math, I'm not so good at math, even though I'm Asian. I'm not so good at math. Sorry, that's a cultural joke. But Small Wars, thank you for that laughter. Was that? I knew that would be unique. So this is a pechacucha. This is a form that was taught me by Tina Chang. And one thing that Tina Chang said, and it was created by Terrence Hayes. So Terrence Hayes has this all over. What was that wonderful book with all the sonnets? He's just an amazing poet. But one of the great things about this that Tina Chang said is that you're never alone when you're doing it because you have this artist with you every step of the way. And plus, if you do a pechacucha, depending on how you space it, you have a big chunk of a book because it's like 20 poems. So I have two pechacuchas in here. This one is after the photography of Anmi Le. And so I'm really excited because I've never actually read the whole thing with the images. So you are the first ones to hear me read this poem with the images. So I'll try to go along. I might stop just to comment a little bit, but it's in 3 parts based on a book that you can get in the library here of Anmi Le's photographs. She is Vietnamese, a refugee from Vietnam, and went back several times in the 90s and 2000s to take photographs, which is the first series, Vietnam. The second series, Small Wars, she engaged with a bunch of reenactors in Virginia who are reenacting the Vietnam War. And they also said, hey, you're Vietnamese. Do you want to be in this too? Do you want to play Viet Cong? So she's like, okay. She put on black pajamas and put on a rifle and is in a couple of photographs. And then 29 Palms is the lead up to the Iraq War. So she went to 29 Palms where soldiers were training and preparing to go to war. But they're trying to recreate what Iraq would look like. So the photographs are uncanny in how they look. So, okay, we'll start with Small Wars, a pechacucha after Anmi Le. 1, Vietnam. I'm interested in the Vietnam of the mind. It's a quote from Anmi Le. Untitled, Tan Hoa, 1998. A broad bend of the Ma River. We approach from above as if to strafe, but there's no ripple, no fear, only figures blurred by leisure and the shutter's slow sundering of light. Untitled, Nam Ha. The girl is a rhyme, so is the helmet, the blouse spattered with mud. History has a geologic thickness, but not war. War is waged with the thinnest part of consciousness. Untitled, Ba Vi. I'm triggered by foreground. I picture landscape, but where are the bodies? Not beyond the frame, but in the footfalls. An off-screen voice is called an acousmator. An off-screen body isn't even a ghost. Untitled, Ho Chi Minh City. The horizon drops so low the shutter can't sharp the barrel roll of shade wings, dive bombing the crowds fuzzed by dust, as though by rotor downwash, moors ab alto, even the girl gripping a string. Moors ab alto is death from above, and that's what the Army Rangers painted on their helicopters. That's Robert Duvall's character in Apocalypse Now is part of that core. Untitled Sapa. Any child can tell you the opposite of fire, but what is the opposite of napalm? The pail he carries gets heavier the closer he gets to the lens. The bellows a well of gravity, a concertina sun too hot. He is not any child. Too hot, he is ours. There's a famous photograph of the Vietnam War of a boy who's been burned by napalm, who's running towards the camera, and her photograph is a callback to it. Untitled Hanoi. The kind of room they took my uncle to in Camp Crame, Manila, 1973. The chair and fold-out table, window fogged with houses. Would you care for a cigarette? The century has been kind. We have all the time in the world. Untitled Ho Chi Minh City. As if to flee by boat toward a shore of unlit neon, Compaq, Carlsberg, Panasonic, Diamond Shamrock. Orange is colorless, chatdocmao.com, even in the colorblind pages called Time. Sorry about my pronunciation, that's the word for Agent Orange in Vietnamese. The second part is called Small Wars. All wars are fought twice, the first time on the battlefield, the second time in memory. It's Viet Minh. Sniper. So this is Anile in the photograph, the photographer herself. Sniper. This sentence is a simulation. What sentence is not? There are men in it, motion blurred except for the eyes. There is black hair, black sleeves lining up. If we look through the eyes of the photographer, whose eyes does she look through? Tall grass. If the landscape is a character, what is its arc? Who played it last? Killed in the first act, who comes back in the viewfinder as yellow pine, not fan palm, cedar and susurrations of tufted hairgrass? Rescue. Safe fuselage, and the mind makes wreckage. So smoke to plush the steel, and pencil to mark parabolae. What if time is to grammar as herbicide is to canopy? Lesson. This is her again in here. Oops. Let's you and me war game this. Nixon to Kissinger, 1970. Hard at work reading tea leaves, the opposite of reenacting, which makes the ground a Ouija board. To spell the next question, the photographer plays the enemy, lets herself be lensed by her own planchette. I have a terrible scan of this. I couldn't get it to scan. Distant flare. You see now that war is sorcery. I do not mean witches. I mean it is made in the dark, the ancient forest, like the first murder, like the slow rounds of fairies, a forge siring forges. Bamboo. If every war is fought twice, which time is this? Quiet. Count to 20. And the last part is called 29 Poems. In her epigraph, I am more interested in the precursor to war and its psychic aftermath. Infantry officer's brief. The California desert. How are men different from hills? 20 and huddled like chaparral stones. Shade proliferates, and under this new tissue, the fever comes down. Infantry platoon Alpha Company. Sleeping back to back, we rise, white hot as static. The camo netting 10,000 paper cranes. In between raids, there is waiting. This in between is what we are in now. Captain Folsom. You can imagine hitting the tank from here with a rocket or rocket-propelled grenade, and how long it would take the punch-drunk turret to find a ballistic solution. The bush you're crouched in, clear as kindling the sun, so slow it could take all afternoon. Combat Operations Center Guard. Practice watchfulness, practice middle distance, practice boredom, beside the rare razor wire coiling past like the contrail of a good idea. The desert, a simulation. Just ask the departed buried under a crosshair. That grave is either empty or it's ours. Explosive ordnance disposal. Does it sound like a practice room inside the bomb suit? Is the robot the kind the Dallas police rigged with a pound of C4 to kill the cop killer? When its gripper opens, does it sound like the trap door in the anatomical theater, vanishing the cut and unused Renaissance parts? This is the wrong image, sorry. I did a cut and paste error. Security and stabilization operations. A garland of good Saddam, fake Arabic, free Saddam, like W's left in the sun, like the asses school children in graffiti above urinals. Go home, a colon floats like a free radical, separating neither seconds nor tenths of seconds, preceding no list. This is the last one. Night operations. If lightning is made entirely of air, what is an airstrike? Impossible to tell who is striking who, the desert or the night sky, but possible now to imagine death arriving as light and light, the cessation of time. So that's the picture. I always wanted to read it with all although I blew it and I missed one of the photographs, so I can show you later on if you want to see it. Just one more thing, which is I want to show you. Actually, do you want to pass those out, Anthony? I gave you a handout. I started off as a kindergarten teacher, so I just love teacher stuff. So I'm going to finish with a couple of, throughout the book, there are some diagrams. The original book, there were diagrams too. And so I decided to just mess with those too. So I'll do this one last, because that's the handout I gave you. But here's an example of one. So they're really boring diagrams like this, but there are also some weird ones of horses and things like that. So this is an org chart, basically, of people that serve in the administrative part of wars. So there's a lot of boring stuff in this book too, which gives you a lot of text that you can play with. But I started playing with it like this. So I would use just markup function on it and just sort of try different versions and delete but what I did, I had to make up rules for this as well. So I would go left to right, top to bottom, and I would allow myself to borrow letters from the next letters in the sequence, but I couldn't jump over it. I had to keep it as a running sort of tab. And so it ended up like this. And my partner is a graphic designer, so she just blitzed out everything, recreated the charts, and we decided to use a capitalization for it instead. But it ended up being, he said civilian, said personally, I tell, not an admission. And so there's a little bit of the original in here as well. But this one, this is one of the diagrams, because horses were so important to warfare, even all the way up until World War I. I think famously, the Polish defense, right? They tried to hold off the Germans, and their horses just got laid to waste because they were fighting a 19th century war against 20th century machinery. So it comes up in the book like this. And I think I ended up borrowing some text from the side as well. No, actually, I didn't. I used mostly just the text from here. I decided to do this one handwritten because I just wanted to walk around with this image and think about it for a while. And it ended up looking like this. Bones 2, this is how I read it, but you could read it how you choose to. Bones 2 are either or, shoulder, shouldn't, cannot, canon, coffin, off. And the bones of horses are such beautiful, coffin, cannon bone, is it coffin bone? I can't remember the exact wording for it, but there's just a whole vocabulary of bones for the horses. So the one I put in your hand, it ends up leading to the last poem I'll read. So this is a crazy mess, but it ended up starting to look to me like that game that I put in the backside of this. So there's a game called Sumka in the Philippines. And I wanted to also put like some Filipino culture like as like resistance against all this other stuff that, you know, I grew up playing this game. But it started to look like it to me. This top kind of like boat-shaped bubble looked to me like the game Sumka, which is the same as Mancala, which is played in a lot of other countries around the world. And it also uses those, someone help me out, my brain's not working. It's like a little seashell. Cowrie shell, thank you. I have it in the poem. Cowrie shells, you use that as a game piece within here. But in researching this, I discovered that it's a two-player game. You play versus another person. It's like thousands of years old. And those cowrie shells were also used as currency for a long time as well. But one of the things I discovered was that if you play Sumka or Mancala by yourself, it's considered a form of divination, which is really fascinating to me. So this is what it looked like. Oops, no. I decided to take it to a paper and just draw it out to have more options. And the end product looks like this. Supply, procedural poems are games revealing forms. Shells diviners consort and distribute to tunes. And then you can kind of like offshoot if you want ear and echo or crossed out and our auras. The hour can be in there too. I'm not sure, like, you know, I just like to read it straight down. But so that jumps to a poem that I skipped earlier. And here's a look at the Mancala board if you want to see the game as well. I'll just find it. There it is. It's kind of a big ass book. And here's what it looks like up close with those cowrie shells. So I'll read this and then I'm going to read one funny poem. That's actually the only funny poem in the book that comes in. So 11.1. This is one of the erasures again. Disarmament of population. It is customary for a child to possess miniature weapons and ammunition. I collected stamps too, and seashells, including cowrie shells from the Philippines. Currency for 1,000 years, but now game pieces. In Sumka, a cousin of Mancala, cowrie shells are placed on a wooden board shaped like a boat. Shells that land in empty pits are dead. Sumka is a two-player game. Played alone, it's a form of divination. It was when we went back from my grandfather's funeral to cities that were never my cities that I started my collection. 7 years before he was born, there was a war. That war became a map, and the map became a manual. I wanted to erase it, not to undo the past, but because the past is still capable of killing us. Once, I was taking the Jubilee line when the train suddenly slowed to a stop. I made my way to the surface. London was stopped in every direction. Someone had found an unexploded German shell, and it had to be disposed of. In this variant, the speaker is a medium, and the reader is a sapper. We are playing a game. We are disposing of unexploded ordnance. It's really long. I swear to God, I erased that. It was like a very long chapter, so I had to be cramming letters wherever I could find them. And here's the last one I'll read today. And this one, the chapter is called Mounted Detachment. And I saw the word pack over and over again, pack, pack, pack. So I thought of this Filipino comedian named Rex Navarrete. And he plays with the fact that Filipinos substitute F with P. So in his comedy, he makes a joke about this place called SBC Packers because it sounds like fuckers. So he's like, pack, pack, pack. Every time you hear pack, it's supposed to be the F word. And it's such a dad joke. He says SBC. He's like, yeah, it's busy. It's very busy. So it's just full of wordplay. And it also, I got this from Sarita C, who teaches at UC Riverside, who is a brilliant scholar of Filipino culture and literature, and she has this whole chapter about Rex Navarrete. 7.4, Mounted Detachment. Don't pack with us. It's a Filipino joke, a play on accent, FP substitutions. We are the best packers in the world. We'll pack anything that moves. It's a form of first language interference. First language becomes pierced language. We can pack like animals. If you prefer, you can go and pack yourself. Because puns pack meaning, pack with hierarchies, pack up borders. Our motto here is, if you pack with us, we'll pack with you. Thank you.
It'd be nice to converse with both. I'm trying to figure out how to configure ourselves.
Yeah.
We could all come back here.
Yeah.
So we're there.
I'm sorry?
Would you like me to wear it?
No.
No. All right. Well, thank you. Like the thing I find myself, and I'll start a conversation with our readers and then like asking you all to ask questions as well. I find myself thinking about form throughout the reading. Like in your reading, Wendy, the word mommy, right? Feels like the piece is like hung on mommy, right? And that becomes like also a tool for memory, for a nonlinear portal-based tour of memories of mommy and then coming back to mommy in the present.
Yeah.
But then it, like, just thinking also, like, it's not, when we came to the Sunka game piece, it was like this book, which is an erasure of a historical document, which is not a personal document, but is a document that has a historical resonance, right? That has a personal resonance. That one of the last erasures that you read is like went into this game that has that had like personal memories, like that you found hidden in the letters of this form that is also like also in practice, right? So I was just thinking about writing and practices that engage with the personal past or the shared collective past. Like what your thoughts are about how, not just in this stuff that you shared with us today, but how form has helped you find the engagements that you found you needed to find.
My earring keeps falling out because of my nose. I mean, I feel like with regard to form, it's like that finds me, and then I just have to like keep playing with it to see if it's the right form. I'm used to writing very fragmentary work, at least in the last 10 years. That's mainly what I've done. Although I noticed during the pandemic, suddenly it was like not fragmentary. It was actually big chunks of text coming. But I feel most comfortable in fragments, which is quite different actually from my books. Yeah. Although my second book is like, it's more fragmented in the sense that it's like 80 chapters, but it's like each chapter is a page or less, or two maybe.
And so you feel more recently, so it was the last 10 years, the form, with the fragment, which is also a form.
Yeah.
Why do you think that has happened?
Well,
Do you have thoughts about it?
I only even really noticed it when, during the beginning of the pandemic, everything was coming out like so much, like a wall of text. I was like, wait a minute, this is so different. And I do think that was the influence, the experience of being inside mostly, or being scared of being out in the world. But at some point it went back to fragments. So I haven't even thought deeply yet about like what that means. I've just noticed it, and I let myself just stay in that fragment place again. And if it were to come back to like walls of text, then maybe I could start to discern a pattern. Why is this happening this way?
In the piece that you read tonight, Did that emerge linearly, or is it fragments that were then
It's
moved
fragments,
around?
yes.
With, like,
Totally
through
moved
the use
around.
of mommy?
And like pulling things, like things I would see that were related, just pulling them and putting them together and rearranging them constantly.
And did that process of rearranging the fragments lead to like having memories of these mommies from your youth that you had not remembered?
I think, I wrote a list of the mommies that I remembered and like what I remembered of them and what made them intriguing to me. And not all the mommies made it in, it's like the ones that are in there are the ones that really left a weird impression on me. Even though there's some similarities in those mommies.
I think all the poets in there are probably just like a list of mommies I remember. Like I just write that poem right now.
Mommies, I remember. Yeah, it's and I haven't even talked about like the ones I know now.
Yeah.
Around me.
Are you able to write about those things that are for people that are so close to you? That's hard for me to do.
It is hard, but I will still do it. Yeah, I will do it. And no one has told me that like they don't want me to do it. In my books, in all 3 books, I try to keep the names, like it's all changed names, but I try to keep the names the same all the way through. So even in what I read today, like Nicholas is actually some other name, but like it's always the same. And so my friends who have known me for a long time have read the books. Nobody has ever said a word about portrayals or anything like that. And I don't know if I would listen. But I'm not saying anything, like inflammatory about them either. So it feels safer, I guess.
At this point, do you feel like everybody like is also aware that it could happen? Like,
It could happen.
Like you're walking into your life with like a press badge?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to be careful, right? Like you have to be careful with all of your writer friends, don't you? I mean, I've had the experience of having a very deep, long friendship with someone who's a fiction writer who I literally just got a text during AWP. Like somebody texted me and said, I've got some gossip for you. And told me about a piece that she's read that I had already read years ago. And she fictionalized me, and it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't nice. And I was like, damn, all right, well, she's kind of obsessed with me. Fine, good for you. It's in her book, and she read it, and, that's what happens. When you're a writer, like you do have to, you're writing people, you just may show up.
There's like Tony Kate Bambara has that Girl of My Love, like the intro to that. She's like, someone comes running down the street, they're like, how could you write that about me? She's like, I just straight up lie anyway, because it's easier to deal with. Yeah.
So about in writing the piece that you read, I was also struck by the intensity of the rooms, the spaces. And I was wondering too, if like the fragment form and moving things around, like what, did you have some moments of like transport into those spaces?
Yeah, and it's scary. It's scary to go into those places. Anytime I'm writing about the past is frightening to me. Like I've said this to some of the people in my class, like I have to have sort of build in space after I'm done writing something from my past to like go do something else, switch gears completely and get myself out of here, because if I listen to the music of that time, it feels like a drug to me. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good drug. And I have to like really switch my whole psyche around to like be able to be in present time again, So it's not pleasant, but I did really enjoy playing with the idea of like the house as like it's the mother. And I feel like I'm still not done with that. Like this is still a work in progress, and there's probably more that I could say there.
The house is a frame for the mother. That was really good. Yeah.
Thank you.
With thinking about erasure, the quote that you began with when she comes ready. From Voyager, it occurred to me like that book. I don't know if people are aware of that book, but it is it's an erasure. It's a reiterative project that like throughout the book the book that is erased many times in the book, and the book that is erased is a memoir. It's an erasure of a memoir, but the memoir is Kurt Waldheim's memoir of his life as a diplomat. And so the book is also kind of about like the formation of the current global order, but also Kurt Waldheim, for those of you who don't remember, he was the Secretary General of the United Nations. But after he was Secretary General of the United Nations, it came out he was in the SS. But his voice is the reason for the name of the book, right? It's on the Voyager spacecraft, which has now left the solar system. There's a golden disc for when the aliens find the Voyager spacecraft and connect with Earth. Kurt Waldheim represents humanity and greets.
There's other good stuff on there.
There's other good stuff.
Like Glenn Gould.
There's a lot of weird like pictures from the 70s on there too.
Michelangelo.
Yeah.
But there's like pictures of
And the
people
nuts.
at like a ski chalet in Aspen. There's weird like representations of humans in their boats. But I think about that erasure, which does so many things. That book is also it's a personal account. It's a memoir as a form. I don't know where to go with that, but I was thinking, thinking about it's just an intense book. Partly because of that.
I think like part of it is that register of language, right? Because he's writing as the Secretary General, is this elevated, and it's not his first language. You gotta give him props for that. Right? But it's officialese is a lot of that language, and so the words that he has to work with, it has that tone, and it sort of carries through to it too. And then there's attention to the fact that he's lying and burying this part about his past and everything in that book. So the attention, I think, for a Small Wars Manual is just that some of it, that language is just so dry and evacuated, but it's talking about things that are about how to subjugate people and how to overthrow revolutions, how to like intervene. And so that the language is very dispassionate, but it's talking about things that have, tremendous consequence for the people that are being colonized. And so the words that are available to be chosen have a chargedness to them already in that book too.
I was noticing the Sistina.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it hadn't occurred to me before, but thinking about all the practices of erasure and then the practice of making a Sistina, I was like, oh, these are a little bit closer than I would have thought they were because of all of those. There's so much fitting words together and knowing that you have to come back to a word. Right? And I was wondering, like at what point you chose did you always know there's going to be a Sistina?
No.
The book, how did that happen?
Yeah, I needed a break from the radio partly, and I wanted to try the form because I had never written a Sistina before. This is the first one I've done, and
they're such a nightmare.
Yeah. But I also,
that's a great Sistina.
Oh, thanks. But it took me like a year to write that. That was a mother. That was a tough one. But the whole reason I wanted to do the erasure form in the first place is because I wanted to get away from the voice that I was in, because I felt sort of like trapped. I didn't want to like put out a sophomore album that was the same as the first album, you know what I mean? And so I thought the one way to get away from who I was like, well, what if I use this form that takes away my words? I have to use somebody else's words to and I ended up finding my own words anyway within it, but that constraint took away this too easiness, maybe, it's weird because I think I had the opposite experience in lockdown where I didn't feel like an outpouring. I felt I was too busy scrolling and worrying about stuff, and so I was arrested. And so doing this, at least it gave me like a process to be like, well, you've got to find some words to do something. And I know people had like various experiences. Like some people, like Shakespeare, they wrote like The Tempest and whatever he wrote during his play, whatever. And then other people were like me, who were playing video games and trying
puzzles.
to,
I was doing puzzles.
Yeah, puzzles. Yeah, puzzles. Yeah, that's right. Making bread, like everyone making bread.
When you brought up like not like wanting to like moving to a formal or to a practice and form as a deliberate intervention in your own style. That's interesting to think about. Like, what do you do? And especially for all of our students here, right? You're all engaged in what you're engaged in right now. And this is the beginning, right, of your writing careers. And, there's lots of good news for you in the future, but there's also that problem of like, whatever you're writing, that like you're going to develop this, you're going to develop a style and you're going to be happy with it. And then one day you're going to get that like, oh, I'm just doing this again. Like, I cannot believe how boring I have become, right? And then there's the question of like, how do you change? I mean, and this is true, of course, in life too. Like, if you're tired of your personality, it's one thing to be like, I would like my personality to be different. It's not, you can't just be like, I'm going to be different, right? You might as well be like, I'm going to fly, right? Like, what do you do, right? How do you find ways to change how you sound, right? And in writing, like in life, it has to be, I think change has to be indirect, right? Or it has to be some kind of practice that you choose, not just I'm going to change or I'm going to write different. This poem's going to sound different from my other poems, right? I'm going to sit down, and that seems like pretty much guaranteed it's going to sound exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
So since you think that erasure, it was like,
Maybe it sounds the same. I don't know. Like, someone else will have to tell me because it felt different to me, but it might have ended up coming out like the end result. Guess what? It sounds the same. At least I enjoyed the process in a different way because it didn't felt like it felt honest. Like it wasn't just trying to be whatever that. It's a weird thing, because that was just my first book, so I felt like Borges and I'm like, well, who's this guy? Like this, like you. It was just weird, like thinking that there's you on the page somewhere. It's like, well, I want to be somebody else. I want to try something else. I don't want to be pigeonholed into being that voice.
I said form, like a practice or a form, right?
Yeah.
Like something that interrupts like what you've normally done. A short, tight form if you've been flowing all over too much, like fragmentary forms, right? If you're trying to interrupt certain kinds of narrative, things like that.
Yeah.
One thing, poet friends of mine in Slovenia years ago telling me that also they just found like they spend so much time translating in a small country where no one knows your language, like all of their engagement with other writers was translating them. But then they would talk about that was also the way that they could press on their own style, that they were spending so much time trying to bring the movements of somebody else's body of life into Slovenian, that it allowed for some modulation in their own practice.
I think a lot of writers who edit kind of have that experience too, right? Like who they edit literary journals, just all that practice of like trying to shape and suggest and choose that has to affect the way you look at your own work.
I just wanted to feed folks out here. You guys still have a question for either? Yes.
I have a question. Thank you both of you. That was like sticking my finger in an electrical socket in like a really positive way.
Oh, good.
Feeling alive, but like aware of my mortality. Chris, I wanted to ask about kind of like the gamification of the way you approach this erasure work, because it's clear that like rule setting and almost like a kind of drawing or puzzling or cartography approach was taken with this work, and like I feel such a sense of playfulness and kind of like not spontaneity, but like a sort of like, but it's such difficult source material by contrast, and like I just kind of wonder about that, emotional distance between source material and then your approach to it, and I don't know how it felt when you were working through it, if it was like a necessary kind of like a medicine for what you were working through, and how it feels now that you're finished working on it and the book's like out.
That's a really good question, Tamara. There's a chapter called Psychology, and it delves into not just like psyops, like psychological warfare, but it actually talks about like really outdated and horrible phrenological concepts about like people from this type of country will behave this way, and it'll be easy to manipulate them because of this type of thing. So it was really kind of gross, and I had to write that one. I took like 3 passes through that one. But the gamification part of it, I kind of think of that, just the reader-writer relationship too, which is why I wanted to sort of play that last, not the pack poem, but the one before that. It's like, Ramon Jakobson, it's like there's the reader, the writer, and the text, and it's kind of a triangle. And so like this text, it is kind of like a minefield. It is kind of like finding like a bomb that's still under the ground. And so like, I'm pointing to it and I'm saying, well, I'm gonna pull this stuff out, but the reader also can pull out what they want to pull out of it too. So it's a game, but it's also a game that's dangerous too. So at least I'm like, with the reader, if someone comes and enters into the space with me, at least I'm not alone, right? And they're not alone because I'm kind of doing this as well. So it's sort of like, hey, look at this is messed up. Like we can kind of explore it together in a way where we're like doing something different with the text than it was in the first place, maybe. But you're right, I mean, I needed that distance from it. Part of it was just so mind-numbingly boring at first too, just like reading all these procedures. I'm like, God, someone had to read this. And actually, I think General Mathis made soldiers read it for Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah. I'm sure they're just sitting in the desert and like reading this thing. Must have been horrible, right, to have to read it. But are there questions? Or did that answer, or is there? Okay. Mira.
Hi, congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Amazing, and Wendy, welcome, and thank you so much for all you've done this year with us. Like Chris, you probably already know this too, and I think you probably felt influenced from Sabah Sharif's neurotransitive properties, the global and political, and she has this, she writes about like how the rules of erasure, one of her rules is like this idea about care and language. And I don't think she means care necessarily as affection, but the ways in which the state also directs their attention as a form of care, like in their rigorous study of the people that they are torturing.
Yeah.
In her case, she's writing about the torturers at Guantanamo Bay, and I'm thinking now of the state and its attention to the most vulnerable people, right, in this country. I'm curious about both of your relationship to like attention in both of your work, like attention to rules and to the language of violence or state violence. And Wendy, I think your work pays such deep attention to also just your portrayals of different people in your life and a memory of the certain attributes and characteristics, and you do such poignant portraiture of people too. So I'm thinking about that kind of attention too. I'm curious about how you both approach the attention, this idea of attention, right, and also the ethics of attention in both of your works.
I mean, I feel like I've always like moved in the world, like deeply looking at people, right? And like, even looking at my oldest writing in journals, it's very clear that it's like, there may have been so many times when I was quiet because I was observing deeply. And I don't know if anybody here, we were just talking about the TV show, My Brilliant Friend, as compared to the books. But the TV show, it's funny because there you get like this image of constantly the narrator just staring while all this action is happening. And she frequently is just looking kind of like dumbstruck or just so in the background that nobody is really paying attention to her. She's not the center of attention there. And I kind of feel like that's, when I see that kind of imagery, I'm like, yes, that is how much of my life has felt, just kind of watching other people and taking in, and then going and writing about it as fast as I could so that I could remember everything that I was seeing and hearing especially. And I feel like I still do that, you know, any opportunities that I can have with like the same, you know, if I use the example of our classroom, it's like, of course I'm gonna like deeply look at everybody and how, like what their mannerisms are and like what, and I'm enjoying all of it. I may not write about it, but it's like, it's definitely leaving some kind of imprint. And it just feels like it's a way of life for me to then go and try to write about it with all of that. Feels like too much attention. I've been told a lot in my life, like, that I'm unobservant or that I'm like not really there. And I'm like, it's because so much is happening in here. Like I can't, sometimes it looks like I'm not paying attention, but I'm actually paying really deep attention, you know? But it almost feels like that's just the way it is. It's not a choice.
I think that's like, the question that you asked, Muriel, is like, that's essential. That's kind of the war right now is attention. You know, that we want people in the country to pay attention to this atrocity or that atrocity, but people just TikTok and tune out, you know, and that's terrifying. You know, poetry has been marginalized forever, right? But just, you know, all we could do as poets is, you know, I don't know how. No one should ever speak for all poets. It's a terrible thing to say. But like, I want, you know, what Wendy said. I hope that I can do that to just sort of like, well, if I notice something, I want to put it down, and then if anybody wants to read it, that's great. But so much is meant to distract our attention from things, and I'm glad that you mentioned Solmaz Sharif because so Srikanth Reddy, Voyager, and then Solmaz Sharif book, and then Layli Long Soldier. Whereas those are 3 books that really were just essential for me and for this project and just like trying to think about how to deal with history and how to speak about it with documents. But yeah, I mean, it's so hard to pay attention. Like there's so many things invested in keeping us from paying attention, even for a sustained period of time on anything. Like even the latest, like someone just tweeted yesterday, not tweeted, like whatever, what do you call it? It was on Blue Sky. I don't even know what you call it. Someone posted about, do you remember Signalgate that happened last week, which is when that one of this guy in the Pentagon just included a secret document to the reporter of The Atlantic, right? Like we've completely forgotten about that because so many disasters happen consecutively throughout. So it's hard to pay attention to anything. And so, you know, just as a side note, like I have so much like respect and love for all of you who are doing this program because you're like devoting this 2 years to just come and be like, I'm going to pay attention and just focus on my craft. And like, that's a great, it's like, yes, you're doing that. Thank God you're doing that, you know? But yeah, I mean, I love what you said about this kind of like, people like, you don't pay attention to anything. Well, that's because I'm paying attention.
Right.
But I'm bumping into the wall. Something like that.
What you said, Wendy, made me think again about form, but like these were talking about it being like the shape of the form of your life. And I think that's something I think about a lot with writing, like whatever practices you engage in are structuring an incredible amount of your life. Right? And they're also like the form that your work takes is also forming your practices of attention, right? And also influencing what you're going to notice, what you're capable of noticing. And the practice of the page is going to influence like what you're paying attention to in your life. What you're paying attention to your life is going to. And if you change the practice on the page, it might change what you're able to see, right, in your life. I think of all of those things as forms. Yeah. When you talk about the games and the war games, also as forms, I think the part about 29 Palms, I live out in Joshua Tree, and I can see the 29 Palms Marine Base from my house. And when I first moved out there was this set of weird rocks in the distance that on walks we would take that like my partner and I, we thought like, that must be some weird like quartz out there. What are those weird rocks? Or are those houses or those rocks? We couldn't figure out. And then one day we were walking and they started exploding. Oh. And then I thought to look on Google Maps, and it was like from the pictures that you've shown, like during the whole like Iraq war period, the training ground expanded, and they built like modular cities to practice occupying cities. They made modular like Middle Eastern cities, and you can see these pictures on Google Maps of the houses that all look like their interiors all look like first-person shooter games. Like there's just a table and like a single flower on the table, but it's a real three-dimensional space, and they model cars in the street. And then periodically they attack it and blow it up, and then it's modular, so they can rebuild it.
It's like real life Minecraft.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
More questions? Do you have a question for each other?
Well, I just want to say that, like prior to today, my experience reading Erasure always, at least, because I've read a couple of books, but like, I didn't realize that Erasure could go as like far as I'm taking apart the words and rearrange, like, I'm used to seeing Erasure where it's like, you're taking out just certain words. That's what I see like mostly online, right? So I was really struck by seeing how deep you went in the Erasure and how like remarkable that is. And I really appreciate that you showed us some of your process, because this is brand new to me to see just how like it's surgical, so just really appreciated that. Not a question, just a comment.
It wasn't good for my eyesight.
Did you ever have, I've had with Erasure, I've done Erasure where, like how you described it, and then I started doing them, like how Chris was working. And I found sometimes though, I was like, well, I know that if I'm just picking the letters, I got this word that I want. I'm gonna find it because all the letters are here. And then, did you ever have that happen where like it wasn't possible? Like you could, like the letter that you needed to finish the word just wasn't there? That's happened to me. Like I'm just like 10 pages later, like, how is this possible?
Yeah, now I understand Scrabble, because it is really hard to find a J. An X or a Q, so you have to like either like alternate. It's like restricting. I think of like people who I know who have a speech impediment, so they try to avoid a word, so they don't have to say that word, because it triggers a stuttering response. And so it's similar to that in the sense that you're like, I can't find a J. So, but I found a J for Jubilee once. It's like, oh yeah, I was excited. And then you have to, but it was a little bit bad. It's like doing a crossword puzzle without an actual answer.
So in doing that, did it arise that you actually had to change the word you intended because you found something else as you were looking?
Yeah, but then and then the other side, like sometimes like the word board, the whole word board is at the end of this one section, and so I could say waterboard. So I just had to find the W-A-T-E-R before it. And so I was like, oh, well, okay, I gotta use that word. Because I was thinking water cure, but I don't know what to say waterboard. It's sort of meant to be. I wanted to ask you, Wendy, because you said that new piece doesn't really fit in with the book you're working on. So are you thinking at all about like is there another book that it might fit into?
If it fit into another book, if I tried just on the spot thinking about it, I imagine that it would have something to do with aging and being an ambivalent mother, which might get into the territory of like writing about my mother, which I try to avoid. I'm waiting for my mother to she's somebody who she doesn't read my work. She just found out that I have books. I just emailed it to her. I actually was like, and it was by accident. It was like, I emailed her and it was a period of time where you're doing the pre-orders. And so like, there's a link and my mom was like, what? You have these books. And I was like, shit, I forgot to delete that. I didn't want her to know. It's been great for her to not know about them.
So she found out that was a reissue of the books.
Yeah, I don't think it fully makes sense to her. Like to her, it's all new, and I'm like not explaining it to her. So, but I have a feeling like that's where it might go, and I'm not ready for it to go there. So I just keep thinking of this. This is just like a little standalone piece that keeps. I feel like I keep getting drawn back into, but it definitely doesn't fit in the book I'm working on. So
I loved it. So
thank you.
I'd love to see what else would play well with it.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say for me, it struck me as you practicing your muscle to be able to write about your mother.
Yes, it is the beginning.
So you're throwing all these paints out, all these new lines, all these new letters and forms to see, am I ready to?
Wow, thank you.
And it was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was a tenderness to it in your humor, which I got. Both of you injected a humor and play to talk about, to reclaim, to rematriate really difficult things. Yeah. So thank you, guys. Through craft.
I want to ask you one more question, Wendy, about, and speaking of ambivalent mother, what is it like to have, it might be interesting for our students to think about, is you're like working on your first book, but you're at this place where like suddenly you're having these books that you wrote a long time ago that are now all being reissued all together, and now you're being present publicly with them again.
Yes.
What is that feeling
It
like?
is very weird. Like, I want these books to find new readers. But I also have like a bunch of old readers who are like still, people will email me or be like, oh my gosh, that one part from that book. And a part of me feels like I'm done. I'm done with it. But I know that other people are not done with it. And it also, especially excavation, like it definitely, there are people for whom it's very intense and they want to tell me what it means to them and how they relate. So I feel like even though there's a part of me that's done, I know it's not done. And I also want new readers to find it. So I can't be done with it. But sometimes going back to that place, like this was my first opportunity to like do something with the books, and I did not want to read from them. And the book launch that I do is like a conversation again, because there's a part of me kind of avoiding having to read from them, even though I would be happy to read from them. I've had somebody actually say to me like, I hope that you read from this book at our reading, and I'm like, okay. So now I'm doing requests. It's so weird, But I also can totally appreciate it. And it's, I can't not like this. It's a really great experience to be able to have all three happen at once. So it'll be interesting. I feel like I have to come up with something to not bore myself because I've been with these books for so long. I feel like I need to do something, find a way to bring the audience into it. I've thought about handing it to people in the audience and they read from it or something, just to change up the whole energy of it, because I've lived with it for so long, so I don't know, we'll see. If you come to my actual book launch at Stories Books, April 25th, maybe you will read from it for us. Maybe I will hand you a copy.
So the publication dates of both these books are April 15th. Do you all have any copies that people can get from you tonight?
Yes.
I have the one I read from and a couple more.
A couple more, and you have a few?
I have a few.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, as you know, this is a two-part event with an intermission. For out there, there's stuff for you to eat and drink. Let's mingle and then come in and have our second reading. Back in this room where we will probably finally turn the lights on.
Having them on, it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great.
I really like that piece. And maybe I started thinking about moms in my childhood too. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
They are
Oh, yeah.
listening.
I like the singing too. It's like they can cross over suddenly into part this is whoa. You're kind of all just impressed.
Like today, when suddenly, yes, the mom revealed themselves as a person because, they were just freaking out.
And I'm scared of my child looking at me and thinking does she have, she's not thinking does she have a career life, but I know that she isn't thinking about it. Except for when she is. She'll look at my Instagram and she'll be like, I saw your Instagram post and it was cringe. And I'm like, she already has, she's thinking about who I am outside of being a mother.
Yeah.
very strange.
It's so much more public now, right? You have an Instagram feed before. Like, I can't even imagine my mom having an Instagram feed, like what we're seeing.
That would be an interesting thing to write.
Yeah.
It's like, what would my mom's Instagram look like?
Yeah. That's a really good prompt. That's an amazing prompt.
Yes, thank you for that prompt.
No, thank you. I'm gonna like make myself.
I don't know. What is
You tell me which of the 3 books you would like to swap.
Okay, that's so cool that you have. Do you have all 3 here?
Yeah.
No, I think we'll just figure it out. I know that, Caroline.
More reissues have got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we'll just figure it out.
That's so cool.
This is the memoir.
We use the word bruja too.
Yes. And this is called.
Oh my gosh, I love all of these covers.
No, it's a great shirt.
And I know you just said that you you've lived for a long time. But is are any of them a personal favorite of yours? Do you love?
You know, it's funny because I think Hollywood Notebook is my personal favorite, but I know that Bruja is like also fun and weird. And so like, I feel like it's kind of a, yeah, it's kind of
I think I love a little bit of yours. I haven't read this
I
one.
don't
So
get that.
is that
Fantastic.
would you sign it for me?
Yeah, I
Okay,
would
awesome.
love to sign, and I would love you to sign my copy.
This is my favorite way to get books. Is to book swap.
I know, right?
I need a pen. I still have my AWP pen.
Oh my God. I have one. Think it works. Okay, so you're taking Bruja.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm gonna go your second right.
But I'm just curious if we will be able to use visuals for like our portion.
I think you can. That cord is it's the same as in any classroom.
Gorgeous.
So NK is the one to talk to. NK is the wizard.
Heard, Chef. Thank you.
And notoriously bad handwriting, so I call it.
Yeah, I was wondering, does that connect to all
Worse and worse.
I-
As I get
laptops?
older,
I can't speak for all, but it
One
connects
thing I
to just
tried
a
to do
normal,
during the
like you said.
pandemic is bring back cursive. Thank you, because I hadn't been using
Perhaps,
cursive for years. I just couldn't use it. So I was like, oh, I'll try to do it again. So now my handwriting looks like a middle school kid's handwriting because it's.
mine has like always been a mix of cursive and print, and so it just gets like, nobody can read it. Nobody can read it.
Did your child learn
Handwriting?
Yeah.
No.
See, mine didn't either. So
Yeah.
This.
Oh, yeah.
They don't teach that at all.
Yeah, so it's kind of okay. I guess we're just not doing that.
Hey, Chris, may I ask you a technical question?
Sure. Yeah.
So I want to share some images that I have with the poetic piece I'm sharing. Is this like have to do?
Where it is.
So it's like that, and then I just.
That's all I did. I think.
And do I have to hit like?
I think it just flipped right in, but NJ has a screen off right now.
No, I know. I'm just.
It was crazy.
I didn't have to push anything.
Really, it just popped up.
Yeah.
So I'm showing images of the Chicago moratorium as I. Yeah, something to wait for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh yeah. This is La Raza. You start with that. Oh, that's a 10-minute piece. And then there's 3. That's in Park. And then Paul. Same Park. Today.
Really? Oh wow, that's the same part?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Same baseball dog.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is it?
East LA.
East LA, okay.
Salazar Park. So I wrote this whole poetic piece, the big Ruben Salazar in the stands, watching ball. I love her at the time, played baseball, softball. Yeah.
That's so cool.
2 ground facts and love in East LA.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's so funny that you decided to go short and I decided to go long.
It's coming back. What? Oh my god. Oh yeah.
I'm starting to get a little annoyed stage, so I don't know if I'll make it.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, yeah, this is hitting a little too hard. Yeah, I'm reading. Doing erasure stuff. Awesome. I would love to maybe. Or are you still editing?
Yeah, because like I'm. Yeah, so I'm like kind of.
It's a smorgasbord. You know, you're the topless. Yeah, I have between. Wait, what's today? Thursday. Next Saturday. Saturday. This Saturday. Yeah. Sorry, I worked this morning. I was so tired. I have some. So there were a few times I was like, where do you find this IT there? How go? I guess, and then. And now I'm also I would again. Yeah. There should be in the. There should be. Just like did not know that at all. And so he was following up
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Either of you want to go first?
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Okay, all right, thank you. Everybody else is like, nobody wants to go first. Okay, so you're first.
Oh, I feel way more.
You see, you don't want to go first?
Yeah, no, I'm.
You're cool.
Block it out.
All right, so first, Caroline second.
Because I didn't just want to be able to do that. For each section, it's in sections. It's in six sections. Each section. It's good, right? I wanted something, but if you got, then you would just have like that conversation. Then you could say.
And no screen, right? Just reading? Just reading.
Just reading.
So we will put you and Ray next to each other. And we can turn the screen off so it's not a blue screen. Perfect. Thank you. I'm gonna skip Caroline.
And like, I wanted to get my back. It's like, I just want my back. Yes. I'm literally still sweating to like, okay, yeah. One of them is.
Well, I would probably bag it and put it there. See, from the beginning, it's right there. But your brain is well, all of mine, you said they wrote it like last week.
Yeah, I like it. The old one is really hard.
And then like it feels like a workshop.
Yeah.
So like, you realize it's basically you work over here, so I'm not. Otherwise, you could pick up a coffee.
I know.
I mean, yeah, actually, I was deciding between one fucking picture piece and doing a picture. It's like so many times it's too long, it's too short. Yeah. One. So we'll be in the middle.
The first good one is alcohol, the second is from the black one.
That's like more than a steel coach. That's like stealing my clothes.
I was so obsessed standing out there talking to a view stand next to each other, because we're just like versions of each other right now, the black and the white, and like the dark hair and the blonde, like it was just so, it was great. Is everybody that Kuba? This is my boyfriend Kuba. Kuba, this is everyone. He'll be joining the aesthetics and politics program.
Like half of you is in a program.
It's a program that they literally emailed us today being like, there are still spots left in the program. And we were all like, is one? Where is one? Already. Like, we're kind of busy.
We're coming right back for a different program that's not at all related.
We're in the same school. Like, just literally like as close as you can get without.
Literally.
Cheers! Are you both free? I have not. I was like, once I saw him, I was like, okay, I wanted to ask about reading something. Have you read it? Train your thoughts. He has read it. Yeah. He wants to break up with He's gonna be big director who's acted in a movie.
Oh, you're a director. Hell yeah, that's what my dad wants to be.
Yeah, that's so fun.
Like the writer, the director.
Yeah, he does screenwriting too, and I always joke that that's like as close as I could ever come to dating a writer. Yeah, I don't know if I could ever date someone who really like.
Exactly. It's like the energy. It's scroll like we know.
Like her film and always like
It's like
I swear I'm not gonna I just never get it right.
But like, this is his new character. He sits
Oh, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Oh,
He looks
yeah.
the whole time he sat at his lunch outside looking for
Well, I guess it does go bad. It'll be okay. I don't think what I have to do. Yeah. It's actually, I didn't realize this until like a few days ago, but it's my first reading. Really? Like every other time I've presented my work, it's been in the poetry. Yeah, I think only a reading I've ever been part of, I didn't actually read it. So this is kind of the first in a weird way. Sorry, I have a poetry I don't even really do here.
That's really literally shocking.
It's okay, you're just a part of it. Yeah, I thought we said people would be sitting like all the time, but how was the reading? I was like, I don't know how it was. It's still happening. Not good. Oh, yeah.
Oh, mushrooms. How? The baby. Why is your mom don't get to find my son ever again?
Probably smells cat. Okay.
Hey, reader, what's up?
Okay.
I have, but I have love.
You want something great?
I wish I could.
I know. A picture of everything together.
Are you really going to Michael's house? Has he the exact same way?
Well.
Chris is getting a little process. They live across the street, and so we actually.
Oh, yeah. Outside yes.
No.
Yeah, the exact same. We bought their video shows.
That's really weird.
It's only weird when it's like when you're in an apartment, we go to a different part of the same house.
I did that the other day. Yeah, I used to have dreams where I was in my childhood house and just all we were there. That wasn't exactly a nightmare. It was a weird nightmare. Well, yeah, we talked about this. Every time someone has like, well, we don't like talk about and write about our doing. Every other
Now be great. How are you?
Oh, right. Oh my God! Right.
I've seen him a lot. Oh my God.
Oh my God. I'm gonna do the wedding.
Yeah.
I was just at a,
Wow.
I was just over at the, there was a little symposium. Actually, like, got there when I just missed it. Some of the
So
posters
we're looking at Melanie for this wedding.
So I got there for around time. Luckily, they would say hi. I brought this kaleidoscope. It's a squishy, so you can bend.
Oh, that's fucking
Bend the,
This is like a foam board.
It's, there's a little bit of, like.
Yeah, pick up.
And.
I mean, it's fine, like I have it on the side.
I have it on my computer. Oh, never mind. This is not anything. I think I was looking for.
We're all still there. I haven't dropped until. I mean, you can kind of see it. It's like, when you look at a microscope.
You ever see the monsters?
I'm trying to get to like, look at. I think a lot of people are even.
Yeah, it's more like.
What?
I really forgot.
Oh, you're connecting with me, so I'm sorry.
I also think it should say.
Oh, like at the end.
Yeah.
I watched the first,
Yeah, I told him, I was like, I some of those things maybe I'm doing, but there's
That are like actually going, that's like.
Yeah, I read and I'm smart and
Over here, over here.
Yeah, I can't do this right
Over here. Over here.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh.
All right, great.
Sorry.
Moment we've been waiting for. It is, we're entering April, it's the season of readings, there's gonna be so many readings over the next few weeks. I am very excited for this one. So, as has been prearranged with the readers, and as you know, readers, remember who you're coming before and after. I will begin the introductions, but then the readers will introduce the person after them. Thank you, everybody, for agreeing to contribute work that you've made to the discussion and sharing that's going on tonight. Our first reader is Alyssa Binder, who has agreed bravely to start us off when all the rest of you refuse to go first.
Thank you guys, and congratulations to Wendy and Chris. Very happy to be reading amongst you tonight. As a sort of preamble, I would like to disclose that erasure work for me entails not only the use of erasure as process, but also includes the use of erasure as thematic. Erasure itself is defined as the act of removing or destroying something, especially something that shows that the person or thing ever existed or happened. While my work does at times utilize the act of erasing or blacking out language on the page, it also serves as a resistance to the erasure of others, especially when that erasure occurs as a direct result of the military-industrial complex of the country in which I was born, currently reside in, and where my taxpayer dollars continue to fund wars, acts of aggression, covert operations, and genocides across the globe. This is an excerpt, an abridgment, an adaptation of sorts of work from my thesis, Epitaphs in Low Light, which confronts these very acts of human erasure. In America, we learn about international wars that never directly touch us, because none of the wars touch us, except maybe Pearl Harbor, therefore World War II, maybe. But other than that, none. Take Vietnam, for instance. Never touches us because it's not framed as a loss. And the Korean War never touches us because the broader shadow of the Cold War looms above it. And Iraq, Afghanistan, no, they don't touch us because there was no formal declaration of war. Rather, both were part of a more generalized and ambiguous war on terror. And all the interventions in Central and South America? No. And all the coups staged across the globe and CIA-backed operations in which there exists a notorious track record in which the US provides arms? Well, that's another story, and we don't talk about that. Instead, we learn about international committees, conventions, the double entendre, rules to make wars humane. In the teacher's pause, I ponder, how many of us wonder, what is a humane war? Taught to rise every morning, stand one hand over my heart, pledge to a country who is only ever acting in its own self-interest. The repetitions of the pledge I made obediently repeated every day. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And again, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, and one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. and again and again and again. From these repetitions, I carve away the letters to say what I truly want to say. America, I am unallegiant to the state which understands divisibility for all other nations other than its own. And how does my nation, this nation which claims indivisibility, create divisibility for other nations? Through drones, chemical warfare, through silencing. This following poem is called Silencing. Silencing. The pen of a grenade, much like fucking with heads cut off. How could we taste with no tongues? Gaze without white irises. Hear pleasure with ears pressed into the floor. Scary war between mental and physical, and so distant your heart caught in chest like napalm. Conscious. As I map the constellation of my own consciousness and my impetus against the silencing, I can't help but think of a quote, often attributed, heavily debated in the accuracy of its attribution, to Orwell. To speak during times of universal deceit is a revolutionary act. However, I amend that and contend that to love during times of universal deceit is a revolutionary act. To love as an act of resistance. This following poem is called Migration. Migration. Miles of migration transition to quiet, toe-touching isolation. Vibrations to save us from extinction, like nectarine answers to famished dreaming. In milky dim moonlight, soft bellies fall. Syllables of sound slip between valleys and mouthfuls, and into the cloud-crossed indigo night. To kiss a wrist, a forehead, an eyelid, is to arouse an ancient chant of cosmic star speak and divine orbiting energy. Understanding love's audacious power and nakedly grasping for a way to alleviate the strange ache of the nocturnal hours, we press against the inevitable, bittersweet rising of the dawn. Thank you. I would like to introduce our next speaker, my lovely classmate, Caroline Vasquez.
Hello. How's this? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. My dad was worried about me mumbling, but I think we're good. So I'm not a poet. My original plan was to create an erasure poem based off of some documents that I've read in regards to racing. If you've heard me speak at all in the time you've known me, you've probably heard me talk about racing. But I couldn't quite figure out the shape of it. I'm really glad I listened to Chris speak and show his poems where he gamified structure. That blew something open in my head, and I'm excited to get back into it. Instead, I come to you with an essay about how I felt the days after I quit Twitter last year. So this piece is called Unlearning Twitter Brain. The first book we read for the Experiments in Experience nonfiction class last semester was Patricia Lockwood's 2021 novel, No One Is Talking About This, which is about grief, performance, social media fame, the ways in which the internet has transformed communication and our abilities to impact others around the world, and what happens when our online and offline worlds converge. It's split into two parts, the first of which resembles Twitter with its one-liners and short passages, its disparate ideas and absurd musings and sharp observations written by the unnamed female protagonist who went viral prior to the events of the novel by asking, "Can a dog be twins?" The latter portion is prose heavy, longer paragraphs and fleshed out thoughts, as the protagonist tries to pivot from the unserious to grapple with not only the horrors of the portal in her phone, but also a tragedy impacting her family. She never quite transcends what Mark O'Connell for The Guardian calls irony poisoning, but we get to see her complex human messiness once she grounds herself in the offline world and interacts with people in person in a way that feels authentic, as in unmediated by a screen and online persona, as in not commodified or presented for public consumption, as in raw, as in real. I love this book. It wasn't a quick read, but I flew through the pages, underlining and adding margin notes and trying hard not to laugh loudly on a crowded weekend train. I keep a short list of works I turn to when most in need of immediate creative inspiration and human reassurance that my art making is valuable and necessary, and that, yes, I should be where I am right now, writing and experimenting the way I have been. Works to emulate, works that strip me down to my bones. As soon as I was finished reading No One Is Talking About This, it joined the list. In my class, this glowing response was a minority opinion. A fragment of a remark made during one discussion that stuck with me was, if this is where literature is going, then... I was a little over a month shy of being on Twitter for 10 years when I finally pulled the plug and deleted my account. My most recent one, anyway. Over the years, I'd had several fan accounts, public and private. My first fan account opened on Christmas Eve 2014, dedicated to a short-lived boy band created on the X Factor UK. Without looking them up, if the name Stereo Kicks means anything to anybody in this room, I will Venmo you $5. By the time I deleted my final account, I still had one mutual from those early days. My most recent primary fandom has, of course, been Formula One and motorsports in general, while hers was the Netflix Regency drama Bridgerton. We rarely interacted after those first boy band years, but I still have her phone number saved, because one time she accidentally messaged me using her iCloud email. We had a good laugh after that. While talking about Lockwood's book in class, I mentioned that a key reason it resonated so much with me was because I was intimately familiar with Twitter and its Ouroboros of pain and joy. During my time on the platform, I made and lost many friends. I learned about everything from architecture criticism to how to navigate translating K-pop content for an English-speaking audience, to which soccer position classically corresponds to which number between 1 and 11, the number of players on the field. Despite playing soccer for 11 years, I didn't know I played in the number 4 spot. Twitter used to be good for these kinds of mini revelations. Also during my time there, I fell deep into a dissociative hole in the spring of 2021. And almost every month, it seemed, I witnessed strangers and former friends alike pile on dear friends for daring to say reasonable things on the No Nuance website. I had my own share of blowback too. Despite its several shallow, serotonin-laced pockets of good times, I can't say I was ever purely happy on Twitter or with Twitter. If it hadn't been for my friends and my locked lists of sports-related and fandom-related accounts I read like newspapers, I would have left sooner. I deactivated in early November of 2024. In the weeks that followed, the bird-shaped cavity in my chest was full of quicksand. I'd been trying to grab onto a sturdy branch to pull myself out, but my reach is short and I have sweaty hands. Nearly 10 years I spent scrolling this microblogging platform. Still, I have social media I can check for sports scores and pictures from my friends' lives, but it's not the same. Not as fast, not as addictive. My fingers kept slipping. I missed it a lot, but I left because of the continual changes to X's terms of service. And here I will use its current name instead of its forever one, because this is very much X's fault, as in it's Elon Musk's fault, as in it's the fault of where capitalism and white supremacy and their shareholders and pallbearers have trended in the past 20 years, aggressively toward a world that won't last more than a couple generations from now, not in the way we've come to know it, because it's a world whose consequences they won't have to bear. Unfettered generative AI training on posts and awful chatbots are why I left. Before the quicksand, I fought a broken search feature, squashed numerous far-right /crypto/gambling/drop shipping ads, and swam across an endless blue sea of checkmark bots. That's not to say the other websites I wander around are free of these things, But I'd rather deal with Tumblr's busted search function and the 2 minutes of malaise before leaving hellhole of Instagram. I'm also trying to be someone offline, a student and writer who is attempting to be successful in these times, whatever that means. I'm very much a person who has been shaped and remade several times by Twitter. And while there's no need to disregard those 10 years I spent clinging to that part of the social internet, now is the time to regain control over myself and my psyche. Be who I am without the mediation of a screen or online persona. Complex and messy. Real. In November, I'd like to reread No One Is Talking About This to see how it will land. A fresh copy, since my hardcover is so thoroughly marked up. Probably I will be somewhere between the giddy, breathless admiration of my first read and the distaste of my classmates, not listing it first if asked for book recommendations. A major theme of this first year in an MFA program has been taking what serves me in terms of approaches to art making and what I might pursue in terms of a writing career, and leaving the rest. I hold on to this book and leave behind writers whose work I didn't enjoy. I maintain most of the friendships and life lessons gleaned from Twitter and all the data I downloaded before I left, while no longer feeling beholden to stay on the ship until it sinks for good. I take some wit and leave my attention-seeking tendencies. Mostly. I'm still a writer, after all. Though, it's a shame I don't get to see a menswear expert and fragile masculinity sharpshooter Derek Guy on my timeline anymore. Good thing there's YouTube. Thank you. It's my honor to introduce now someone who's getting me thinking a lot more seriously about erasure and poetry in general, Tamar Bresky.
My laptop died over the break. Oh, it died. Okay, I'll use my phone. I've been torn between two pieces, and I'm gonna decide right now which one. That's what I'm gonna decide. Thank you, Ray. Okay.
Do you want to have a power switch? Do you have a power switch?
What?
Do you want a power break?
Oh, my laptop is so, guys, pray for her. She powered down, and once she's down, she's 20 minutes to reboot. But thank you. All right. This is called The Leftovers. Is the sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Dad. My dad's on the stream. Okay, shh. Hatless, smoky little groups of 2s and 3s and 4s, collegiately dogmatic, provocatively or not, in a Burberry raincoat, pre-Christian Science literature. He changed his mind. Unfresh, Tuesday, I think. If I spell anything wrong, kindly have the kindness to overlook it. Please. Do you love me? Anyway, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. I give you permission to analyze it. Open to graduate students only. But he didn't know enough, nor did he give a damn. Like so many people, empty of all expression, she was wearing a sheared raccoon coat, spontaneous enough to begin with, but rather inhibited in the follow-through. She did most of the talking, if not all of it. Sometimes it was hell, feeling oddly guilty about simulated affection. I'm starved. Again, guilt. Both having martinis, briefly, the room almost palpable, finding himself in the right place. But by some old standing arrangement with her psyche, she elected to feel guilty for having seen it. Know what I mean? I heard you the first time. Her throat self-imposed, fully served, she smiled. She sipped her martini. This is marvelous, she said, looking. Not just psychoanalysis and all that crap. I'm no Freudian man or anything like that, capital F Freudian at that. She had asked the wrong question. Suddenly, she didn't want the olive at all, and she wondered why she had even asked for it. The interruption of the olive. Self-disapproval, for the moment, malice felt like speaking. A man takes over a class, busy having a nervous breakdown. A graduate student in Russian literature, his little button-down collar shirt, completely ruined. He starts talking about his English department. 10 little men, all so brilliant they can hardly open their mouths. All they do is this. I've just felt so destructive all week. Disloyalty and guilt. The order of the day. I'll snap out of this in a minute, I absolutely promise. A brand of detachment, conceited little terror downers. At least they're poets, but they're not poets. A real poet? Just tell me what a real poet is. I don't know what a real poet is. If you're a poet, you leave everything solitary, inside your head, something, a poem. The sheared raccoon coat, unqualified dissatisfaction, looking worried and vaguely, unfairly conspired against, attractively bored. The suchness of her environment, her hands, her eyes, hard as though to paralyze. She cried fully for 5 minutes. Knife-like, immediate, her body. The small cloth-bound book, a small cloth-bound book, quite briefly, qui vive, who lives, okay, what? No, yes and no, I don't know. All I want is a chicken sandwich and maybe a glass of milk. A chicken sandwich, for God's sake, I'll eat while you're eating, because you want me to. Self-hatred, quite literally charming, straddle it backwards, terribly, terribly quiet, something terribly disparaging. Bastard, nymphomaniac, something horrible, I know what you mean. Somebody painting a scenery for a magazine. Everybody is so stupid, so tiny and meaningless. Everybody briefly felt less. She had a fever. I think I'm going crazy. Maybe I'm already crazy. I'll be fine in a minute. Oh, your snails look beautiful. Nothing, absolutely nothing. You eat. I quit. It was all mine. You didn't quit. I just quit. I used to hate myself. Egos running terribly warm, kissing everybody, horribly natural, sort of ashamed. So don't look at me, my brothers. I used to write lyrical, expressionless, if you recall. Talking for half an hour as though you're the only person in the world, maybe the ripe playboy genius. I can't help it. Ego, ego, ego. Something distinguished. It is afraid of studied quietness. A good psychoanalyst, horribly conditioned to like everybody. Just because I like applause doesn't make it right. I'm sick of myself and everybody else. Her glass of milk, my teeth, her untouched chicken sandwich. He was holding out a folded white handkerchief. Why? Do I need it? Use my handkerchief. No, I love that handkerchief. It was such a beautiful and inspired gift. She reflected. She watched. Who wrote it? I don't know. His wife is dead. It's peculiar. Fanatical, but in a way it isn't. Somebody seemed intensely interested. Her eyes remained filled with bread and salt. I hate to mention it, that I love more than anybody. Dear little beggar. She likes beggars, really. They always sit down to eat. God damn. You don't want your butter, do you? In her left hand, the glass of milk. It's really sort of interesting. I mean, that's what it is. She was no longer looking. Your lips, an absolutely new conception. His shoulder, asks you to believe, to think its own power or something. People keep saying the same thing, still burning, unknowing. Did you ever hear anything so fascinating? A matter of raised eyebrows. I believed it. I didn't believe it. It means the same thing. Supposed to happen. What? Synchronization and mumbo jumbo? Somebody could get to see God. Absolutely. Self-consciously. I think I'll just finish my milk. She didn't look up. We're lucky due to elementary psychology. A very obvious psychological background. I forgot to mention it just for a second. Through the dining room, the small cocktail bar looked at her. Her right hand lowered, touching, collapsing. A remarkable pallor, hospital room voice. The overhead light, looking for spirits. Doctors just run, apparently stupid. You sounded so perfect. Didn't you? I'm not kidding. What time is it? Is it too late to go back, briefly? Maybe I can find out. I'm terribly thirsty. Okay? Okay. Her lips continued to move. Honored to introduce our next reader, Rachel R. Carroll.
Yes, but not for the first piece I'm going to read. If that's okay. Thank you, Tamar. Do not become a consolation. Toils waver fixed as fate, and my voyage is only promises. Perhaps I may consider sensation, trembling sensation, half pleasurable and half unexplored, but I shall kill no albatross, should come back to you as illusion. The dangerous mysteries of modern poets is something I understand. A belief in the marvelous I am, intertwined with the wild sea. Return to return? I dare not, remember? That is the first piece I have for you tonight, and it was taken from a page of Frankenstein, inspired by a workshop that was led by the beautiful Tamar, who just introduced me. I do consider myself primarily in all things a poet, but erasure poetry is not something I've ever really tried my hand at until I was inspired by Tamar. And now I'm looking for the cord I'm going to plug into my little laptop. But Tamar did inspire me after that workshop to try my hand at my first erasure project, and we're going to see what happens now that I've plugged this cord in. Entire screen. Who knows? I'm seeing the little rainbow wheel of death, so that's something. Is the projector on? Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, it's happening. It's all happening. The time is now, the place is here. Okay. Except now my laptop's like freezing. Yeah, so as I read this, the only piece of context I suppose I will give is that it's all from the same book. It is a book that I read my junior year of high school. And the one other piece of context I will give is that I have kept a daily diary every day for about 15 years now. And in the fall of 2013, I was a junior in high school. And that's what you have. The way back home is always shorter. August, a generic ghost. I still think this way. Ocean waves, sound in a vacuum, replaced by this really fun scream. Lights on you, I swear. I have stories, and I've seen pictures. Sometimes I wonder, will it stop? A VCR tape of a life. All that cheer and nervous smiling. A secret I thought would happen again. I read The Catcher in the Rye when my age was appropriate. Love is still downstairs, but I left this afternoon. I remembered I was the air. So the sky was vast and open and thinly quiet. This all feels very familiar, and everyone is asleep. Thank you. Before I read the very last piece that I have, also inspired by the same workshop led by the same beautiful and perfect Tamar, I also want to give a little shout out to the live stream. If there is only one other person on the live stream other than Tamar's dad, it's my mom. And and I'm sorry, Wendy, but I am one of those people who calls my mom by her first name. So hi, Connie. I love you. You're the best. Okay. Right now, the working title of this poem is Richard Sykin, simply because the prompt that Tamar gave us for this was that she just read a Richard Sykin poem aloud, but didn't give us the text to follow along with, and we just had to pull from what we were hearing to create a poem from just the language that we heard, and I thought it was a really beautiful way to kind of intertwine the senses, and I came up with this, and if you can think of a better title for it than Richard Sykin, talk to me after the reading. I'm very open to that. I cut off the sky. I turned into thinking. It helps to have a head. All these ghosts want something else. Stone, the pond of things, ripples, the future. Something dead that doesn't know it's an abstraction. The mind fights rot, predatory, passive. Bodies decompose eventually. Your will is another word for God. Color pulls gravity from you. It made no sense. A useless fire. Thank you. And next, we have our very own, this poet needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever, Nick.
Wow, okay. I was there before the bloom, spring. Gay softball, Ruben Salazar Park, East LA, Whittier Boulevard. History plays ball. Paul hits a grand slam. I sit in the bleachers. Sun codes memories. Face tingles with him. There is a love the earth resurrects. We brown fags playing and forgotten histories as we walk on the remains of the Chicano moratorium. Brown children kick a ball. They know. History guides. I work on a different poem, but the same. Brown hanging trees of LA. Some of us were hanged twice to work on such a piece at this baseball diamond. Different screams, new hits, smiles, not rage, life, not death. Shit. Brown history be real. I laugh at voices that twist my letters. I allow them. There's so much life on these streets. I see Paul wears the blue bracelet I gave him last night. As he runs the bases, the sun magnifies the blue. The ocean is running. My brown ocean is flying. Meadow green eyes soaring. Ruben Salazar would smile. Two brown fags in love in East LA. The Chicano moratorium dreams. Paul's team, the Wolves, my green-eyed wolf. Oh, how we howl, a brown faggot growl. Primitive, rotten, discarded histories. Ours. Out of the shower, I watch Paul get dressed. Fuck. He looks delicious in his jock. His balls and commanding cock cupped just right. All I can think about is having him all. But he has a game. I'll wait till after. Yes, that's salt before shower. His brown skin. Fuck, I want my wolf.
Our fucking is therapy, a brown faggot healing, every release too many to remember, a letting go and moving toward a home, a belonging, that brown promise, the Chicano moratorium, dreams. Watching Paul play, there's a dream fulfilled. Brown's desires chased. All right, baby, come on, baby. You got this. Paul hits the sun, and the ocean begins to run. Run, baby, run. Fuck, watching him run. A new form for me to witness. Cataloging Brown, its shapes, its fucking, its running, its playing. Damn, Brown can move. Paul's smile is the earth's apology to my heart. That igneous can run, that the ocean has green eyes, that when we fuck, Brown returns a species, transfigures. There is hope, renewal in Brown seeding of another. As we come in each other, the lineament opens, and the Mariposa flies. A new migration, napping, dreams, futures. Damn, Brown, how fine we taste of new earth. A new earth, faggotry. Brown, Anthropocene, turning the Chicano moratorium. Dreams. Through the gate, I snap shots with my government hooker phone. Not fancy, nothing incredible, but documented. We were here. Brown joy, brown athleticism, brown sex, brown rebirth, brown receding, green-eyed, blue ocean, my brown, our fates, our twists, our meetings, our dance, our moments of ecstasy, of seeing, of living the breath of the brown berets, of riding with the spirit of Ruben Salazar, of triumphant. Brown. And its remarkable and unremarkable histories. Memories collide in our union. Brown finds a way to return, to lull a home, to sing new lyrics, to taste. I watch Paul devour his menudo. I digest my carne asada burrito. We Brown eat next to the church where I was told I couldn't read or write in second grade. Paul shared menudo with his grandmother, and his grandmother was buried at that church. Yo, returning is real and hard. Brown, be a fucking trickster. Yes, I allow the language to play. So be it. I read, I write. Take that, white Jesus. The Chicano moratoriums, dreams. Paul's I love yous get deeper. Our bodies fall further into each other. The earth is shifting. There are prayers in these winds. The air tastes of our seed. Paul runs out of the dugout after running the bases and kisses and hugs me tight. I swim in his limbs and allow myself to drown. Always saved, captured, released. Brown can be a love that resets time. Igneous will murmur and I love you. Hazel and green will return. Sacred brown chants. Viva la raza. Miracle, mariposa. I kiss Paul's salty lips, and I am free. No. We, the Chicano moratorium's dream. Thank you. And next, we have the amazing, the incredible Jay.
Okay. I'm assuming you can hear me. Hello, my name is Jay. I'm extremely nervous. Part of the reason I'm really nervous is that I will be reading an excerpt of my notebook poem, which was born out of an activity that Anthony had us do in his class, where he forced us to go to a spot on campus and write. I'm making fun of you, okay? I'm teasing. And he also taught us to go every day, which, and I ended up committing this entire semester to visiting this place every time I am on campus and writing. And this is the current draft of this is about 35 pages, and I really fell in love with this piece, so I will be reading an excerpt from that. Oh, it's titled Jay's Notebook Poem / Outside Place on Campus. The sandbar comforted me in the wind, the corner where the sidewalk ends, the corner for me to sit right outside the field. The empty beer bottle half buried, its label rubbed to dust, but the ground holds it still. I pet the sandbar as if it were a cat, admiring its yellow stalks, and think of my own white hairs, the ones I treasure and yearn for again. You're too young for gray hairs, too much stress for a young person. What do you have to be stressed about? If the fire climbed up or down state, the sandbar and the almost barren trees and dead leaves will catch while blazing mountains watch, the one shaping into the city, the rest of its body surrounding us. You comfort me when you're the one who's died. I showed you the thing. The wind nodded in. I don't belong. I only come here after things have gone awry. It's cold. Like I was frozen without my wanting and had to watch from the worry that doesn't want to let me be. That's a new one. A baby. How many universes have I sat here and cried? You get tangled in my hair like you're trying to become part of me. I think it's the first time it's not windy. The wet in the air makes it want to see the other. It's so still, so quiet. While we listen to strangers and yearning and love and losses and yearning for you, the bottle was dug out. Left behind, we're now surrounded by its entrapment. My shoes left an impression in the soft dirt that dug up what was trapped. Sorry. I swear I knew you before. Thanks for keeping me not lonely. Familiar. Where did I know you in this future of mine? The beer bottle was moved but not removed. Why do I leave it? I'm the chair knocked over and that makes me want to scream. People are still talking about the Super Bowl. The organic music only mask overpowers the wind, not the cars. I'm not good at much, but I'm here. 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 I'm here. Here. It rained last night. Why don't I get rid of it? It's not embedded anymore, just there. My foot aches from the trek. I'm here. Yesterday is an absence nothing can fill. The ground is soft and dry. Will I have to fix my hair again? I don't need comforting, though I act like it. I don't need comforting, though I don't act like it. Try not to mess up my hair, please. I'll just redo it. It's warm. It's returning. Green. My work screams for release. My lines crave ending. My love dies. But don't worry. I've tied my brain together with the tiny braid in my hair. What are they doing to you now? The knocked over chair is still there. I'm still here. Don't worry. I've got protection in the soft dirt I'm sinking into. You're more purple than I remember. The bottle's still here. Why don't I remove it? It's just a little further away from where it was buried. How different is a proper table from the corner? I added more to my soulmates, danced and sang and sparkled on my way here. You did the same. The wind your melody as I jump while you sway and hop. The bottle is still here, even further from where it was buried. I have not moved it. The place it was buried is covered up. There's no hole anymore. You would never be able to see that a beer bottle was buried there once. But it's right over there. I can see it from my corner. It's easier to write over here. Don't worry, my spot is always the ground, where I belong. The only reason I can sing with you now is that you are the only one here to listen to my scratchiness that went unused for so long. I feel so much nostalgia for this loneliness, even though I'm not alone. Thank you for singing with me, a shudder in the sandbar along with the breeze as I pack. It's too late, I planned on moving the bottle. It's late, too late, I plan on getting rid of it. I can't do it. Not today, maybe not ever. Good job, you have never tried, now you can't do it. I've been here before, at the same time, at the same head. Am I destined to become one of you? A tree for people to mourn while alive, just injured from the flames they refuse to put out. I am with you. The place it once was held has been molded away as if it were never there. Are there burns, burnt while I was turned? I am with you. While you burn and stop, while you blow me away, it's still here. Heat returns as I've known it. I get honked at by geese and cars. It's so cold. It was so cold earlier, I bundled myself until I could barely move so the cold wouldn't take me. Now it's wet in here with isolation inside the damn sweater that's wrapped my body heat together. I wanted to wear my boots a little longer. I'm not free of obligation nor freedom. It all looked the same when I was 7. I used to stare at the house that stood white and boring while eyes blazed through me. Love can only do so little. I'm the only idiot who sits here and stares at you. My idiocy comes from my knees, my feet, my wrist, the ends of my body. I hope it doesn't spread. A jellyfish would die here. Have I ever lived near water, the ocean? It feels like I caught a cheating lover, but you're not mine. Others can appreciate your beauty. Stop pushing me with your winds. You're not mine. I shouldn't even pretend. I won't be here long. Orange. You're bright. You're feisty and beautiful. You're the sun. You're sunny and sunset. What are you afraid of? What color are you? Orange? Maybe when I'm gone, none of this will have mattered. How do you live with that? How do you continue? What are you afraid of? It's so green. Green and orange? The sunset in the forest? Your first love? I can't see it from here, but I know the beer bottle is still there. Originally written in the notes app because it was raining. I can't sit with you, not unless I sit in the water. Being wet is uncomfortable. I don't want to be subjected to the humility that is my body, my reactions to the world, to you. Maybe I really don't love the haystack you'll never become. I can't stay long. I was never meant to. Back to my rectangle. With an abandoned car, I can't pretend wooden leaves are the only ones parked here. It's too close. I grew up around plums that were uprooted before I could taste them. I leave things as they were, never making things better. With cigarettes in your skin, glasses knocked upside down, charred wood scattered about. You were never dead. I walked the line like a bridge. Thank you. And now I get to introduce our incredible and final poet. Yes, Katie is. I am introducing Katie, who is gesturing at me right now. Katie. Oh, this is a different vibe. Hello.
Hello.
Is everybody awake?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna start with a really short erasure poem that I made, and that I went through recently, and I created it by compiling all of the text messages from representatives and political parties I got the week of the 2024 presidential election. And this piece is called November 4th. Urgent. Our nation is no man's land. Cyclical standards with no end in sight. Friend, it's been for boys in blue, the game, the play, a reminder of things we push for, but never have. Whatever you've done is not enough. Yet, we are so tired. This devastation wants us to be urgently. Okay, and I'll preface this one with a lot. So in 2023, Japan raised the age of consent for sexual activity from 13 years old to 16. This change was part of a broader reform to sex crime laws, addressing issues like non-consensual intercourse, involving alcohol, drugs, intimidation, and fear. And upskirting or chikan behavior, which if you don't know what chikan behavior is, it's a term that's used to describe sexual assault that occurs on public transportation. So this is an experiment in erasure that I created and produced through the original legal documents concerning these amendments. And I did this work for a few reasons. You guys are probably really tired of me talking about this. I lived in Japan during when these amendments were being enacted. And I experienced firsthand working in Japan the misogyny of Japanese society, which was so eerily the same as America. And I also saw the reactions of people there, non-government and government officials, and how they were vehemently against the age of consent raise. And I think that this whole problem, this whole issue really talks to the discussion that's going on right now within the problematic ideology and the transglobal violence that we're all facing, rather queer bodies, feminine bodies, just all bodies. And so I'm gonna read this poem first in Japanese, and then I will translate it.
Cool.
And this poem is called F equals MA. 及び腰なもの。どうして？その犯罪、お前のせいだ。知っておくべきは、生活は強制の義人って。嘘つき。いや、セーフ。Why are people such cowards? Those crimes are your fault. You should know life is the cause of force, forcing, coercion. Liars, no, governments. And then my last piece is a little longer. This is an ongoing experimental erasure project with Emily Wilson's translation of the Iliad. So this is a whole piece of just one book. So it'll be a little long. And the book is originally called A Duel, and this is called Adieu. Sing so sweet midst despair was it. Feel untied. Speak why let I ablaze burn? Face to face meet words calm like vultures, such dark troops, heart oaths. Break self from all terms. Witness man kill my body. Send it home. Will my name die silent, too afraid of the moment seized? Grab your hand and stop avoiding endless pain. Grieve. Grieve us, this place lethal, may it be recognized, reached, known, an expanse equal to war's life-devouring beats. Wrath, who are you fighting? I know you, unfair, hurled spears piercing through and through and through, like flesh-eating lions right in the center of our backs, heralding love now held tight. I wish I were cruel, then would I not be so separated, so red sacrifices of stripped, skillfully carved, skewered lack. Spill the streams of land screams, let the chariots go deep. Wild wings, give them back their history, and gather dawn's message of tomorrow. The dead wait for recognized tears, wail for earth, boundless tombs. What was the purpose of it all? The fear, the sleep. Good night.
For the book.
I think you're going to be great. That's my guess.
Is it the fault of our book?
No, but you are close. You're born thematic.
Is it John Green?
It's not a John Green book. It's the #1 book. It's not written by John Green.